TikTok time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone watching from all over the planet. It's your friendly neighborhood philosopher here, D. Wood. With me now, we've got the apostate prophet who's uncharacteristically intense and angry right now. What's going on, AP?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just didn't know what else to do, so I thought I should make an angry face.
Okay, we got that.
Yeah.
Hey, we got a good question from Maddie here. Did you guys enjoy the sight of the march to Gaza? Attendance in Egypt. And we talked about that last night. AP even got in trouble for thinking it's hilarious to see people who have nothing but pure intentions getting the crap beat out of them by Egyptians. And then he's like, oh, and he got called out for it. Like, how dare you?
The funniest thing about it is, I don't know if you've seen this with this one video, but this one Welsh guy goes there and then and cries and talks to those Egyptian security forces, like, "Why don't you let me go to Palestine?"
Here. You be him. You be him. I'll be the Egyptian security forces.
Yeah. Don't you have any heart? Don't you have heart? Allow us to go to Palestine. Don't you care about your Islamic children? The Islamic children, they're starving. I want to go help the Islamic children.
That's yeah, did you see him? They're your own people. Why won't you help your own people?
It's like the epitome of the whole of, I hate saying this, but in this instance it's like this white savior attitude.
Yeah.
And they're going and doing it to Egyptians, trying to tell the Egyptian guys how badly the Arabs need help. Like, dude, you absolute idiots.
We're here. Why aren't you worshiping us? You're instead of worshiping us, you're oppressing us.
It's funny.
It would be different if I thought they were at all like, I can't say sincere because they probably feel sincere, but it's just people are addicted to attention, and this is just a big way to get attention now. And I'm just thinking, if you act, okay, there are endless trucks of aid coming in there every day. If you were really just focused on helping people, there are people starving and dying right now with no trucks of aid coming at all, and you could get in and help them very easily. It's happening in a lot of places. No one pays any attention to it because it doesn't involve Jews. That's why I don't take you seriously. Yep. So, AP.
Yes.
Maddie asked, did you guys enjoy the sight of the march to Gaza? Attendance in Egypt? Yes, we did. It was very inspiring. It's very inspiring to see other countries deal with situations in a way more deserving of how they should be dealt with. But hey, we've got this grooming gangs. Issue. You heard of these grooming gangs, AP?
Nah, I don't think that such a thing would be possible. Where would you have grooming gangs? In the 21st century? Are you serious, man? Don't be ridiculous. What grooming gangs?
So it looks like the UK government, the British government, which just mere months ago, and we'll see a clip, mere months ago when they were called upon, why don't we have a national inquiry? It's funny, no matter how many times I say the word inquiry, I'm always thinking inquiry or inquiry. And the answer is both. They're both completely acceptable. And yet, even though I know inquiry and inquiry are both perfectly acceptable pronunciations, every time I say the word inquiry, look, I just did it. I just switched from inquiry to inquiry. I just did it by accident. Like I go back and forth. Anyway.
I just call it the N-word.
The N-word.
Yeah.
Not in the Alzut sense, but in the, anyway. So, heard of these, anyway, just mere months ago, you go back to January, Elon Musk was calling for a national inquiry, or some would say inquiry. And And it was called a far right thing. And anyone who suggested it was called far right. And only the far right want this. And it's just like, it's crazy because that's what they've been saying for years. That's what they were saying about Tommy when he was first drawing attention to it. You're talking 15, 20 years ago. Tommy's drawing attention to this, and it's, oh, you see the far right, the far right. At first they were making it up. The far right, these crazy people, they're saying that there are Pakistani gangs that are grooming and drugging and plying with alcohol and raping and pimping these young British girls. You see these insane people and their insane conspiracies. Turned out not only to be true, but to be massively, massively, massively bigger than anyone could have dreamed. There's no way you would have thought that tens of thousands, some put the figures in hundreds of thousands, some put it in the figures around like 250,000 of young British girls over the past couple decades being horribly, 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 horribly abused by Muslim, predominantly Pakistani men. So then they had to reluctantly do something about it. But Tommy's pointing out, the trials are almost for show. Meaning, no, there are people who are actually going on trial. Some of these trials take months. And these guys are convicted and they're going to prison. So people are going to prison. Tommy has pointed out that it's like a tiny, tiny fraction of the guys who are actually involved are actually being put on trial. And the vast, overwhelming majority, even of cases that they know what's going on, they have the girls, they have witnesses and so on, just aren't prosecuted. And so it's like they're saying, oh, you see, you saw it in the news. We're doing something about it. And so, but there's this follow-up issue, and could even be a bigger issue, that it's not just about the grooming gangs. It's about the social workers and the police and the prosecutors and everyone who ignored it and covered up, journalists who ignored it and even covered it up when they knew it was going on for years. And it's like, why are all of these people not in trouble? Why are some of these people working the exact same job they had before when all this was happening? Why are these guys not in prison? If depending on what they knew and let slide, why are they not in prison? Why are these guys who are just regular police officers back then? Why are these guys like police captains now? Like, how did this not affect their careers that all this was going on? So you had people calling for something bigger. There needs to be a national investigation into this to see who knew what and to hold people responsible and accountable and so on. And that was called far right. You see, far right. See, all you have to do, AP, all you have to do to silence people, you just program them over years that the worst possible thing you could be is far right. And then anything you don't like, any behavior you don't like, as soon as they exhibit that behavior, you say, hey, that's far right behavior. And people, what? I better not do that. That's far right. It's like, wait, what's far right here?
You don't want to be far right.
Yeah, stopping thousands of Pakistani Muslims from raping, gang raping, pimping, drugging, look like 12-year-old girls. That's the far right. The far right are worried about that, and the rest of the people, the normal people, aren't worried about that. So anyway, that's how they silence people. And Elon raised a big ruckus. Remember the ruckus that Elon raised?
Wasn't that last year or so?
That was January. It might have started at the end. It really took off in January because I remember I had just told everyone about how 2025 was going to be way worse for Dawa, way worse for Dawa than 2024 was. And then instantly Elon starts kicking it off. I'm like, oh, this is how you start off a year, buddy. This is how you start a year off. And so Elon's, and what did they say? Oh, far right, Elon, far right. Oh my goodness, he's with the far right. He's with the far right. Because what? Because he's saying that people need to be investigated for their roles in covering this up and this whole scandal, that made him far right and so on. Anyway, people kept complaining and Tommy was released. And now the UK is going to do a national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. And they're going to say, hey, who was in charge of various things here? Who were the social workers who knew about it? What did they know? What did they do about it? The the problem I see is it's still the same government that's going to be carrying out this investigation, right? So like, what is this for show as well? Is this for show? What do you think?
And to what extent will it be transparent? You know, to what extent will it be? How transparent will this whole inquiry be? I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about this, but I wonder how transparent it will be. How much the average population that follows this kind of stuff will actually be able to look into all the details of the inquiry, look into what is being done. How many different people from different political angles over the political spectrum will be able to have a say in what needs to be looked at and what doesn't need to be looked at. I don't know much about the details here, but I'm just wondering about those things. Will it be in the hands of people that people don't trust to begin with, or will it be more open to the public and more open to different perspectives and so on?
Yeah, so a couple of issues. Yeah, as along what AP was just saying. One, is all this going to be transparent? In other words, are we going to be able to observe everything they're doing? So that's one possibility. Two, you can bring in outsiders to conduct the inquiry, an independent organization that has preferably an organization that deals with abuse victims and so on. So someone who actually has abuse victims in mind and isn't just trying to cover things up or smooth things over or put on a show or something like that, or a kind of mixture where you have different representatives of different groups and so on in there, and they have to work together for this. Because, guys, people, and this is something that Tommy pointed out. Again, if you didn't see his full interview with PBD, I strongly recommend checking that out, because PBD, to his credit, let Tommy really break things down in detail. But the idea here is, because again, this is a really foreign idea to lots of other people around the world, in America and so on. We're thinking, how could you let this happen? And how, once it's exposed, how are people still trying to cover up? And then how would it even be controversial that you want to look into it and find out who's responsible? The idea is everyone in positions of power has got dirty hands on this in all these cities and in these government positions and so on. So again, you had social workers, they knew what was going on. They don't want to do anything about it because they'll get in trouble. Police officers knew what was going on. They don't want to do anything about it because they'll get in trouble. They don't want to be called racist and so on. Prosecutors, all of this. Reporters wouldn't report on it because they'd be accused of being racist and so on. But it goes beyond just, we're familiar with that. We've heard that for years, that they were scared of being called Islamophobes. They're scared of being called racist, and that's why they kept quiet about it. It's actually significantly worse and deeper than that, goes deeper than that, because at first, it's once they find out it's going on, the politicians in power, they don't want to say a word about it because they're the ones who brought all these guys in, right? Mm-hmm. So if it becomes common knowledge that thousands of these Pakistani Muslims are drugging and raping and gang raping and pimping young British girls, you don't want to be the guys who brought them in. You're the bad guys, right? You brought them in assuring, hey, multiculturalism is a great thing. It's this great thing. So you would, if they're doing this, you're the ones who brought them in. And you don't want to be the ones who brought them in, because then you're responsible for girls being raped. You're responsible, not just the Pakistani guys. You're responsible, right? If there's a girl in a room and I go bring a rapist into the room and I say, here, have at her, that's on me too. That's on me too. But that's what the government was basically doing, right? So the government wanted to cover this up because they don't want to be the bad guys in all of this. And so they make sure that other people understand that they will be racist if they bring it up. Anyway, so people spend decades being quiet about this and covering it up. And then once it comes to light, well, guess what? Now, if this is exposed, then there's actually this huge investigation and people find out what was going on and who knew what. You're talking about thousands and thousands of people in positions of power and influence and authority and so on, who are all in trouble right now. And so what happens? Hey, it's in all of our best interest that we just keep this really quiet, isn't it? What are we going to do here? What are we going to do if someone brings this up? We're going to say, what? Far right, far right. You don't want to be far right. You don't want to be racist. You don't want to be an Islamophobe, do you? Only far right people are concerned about this. So they came up with this big scheme. And by the way, guys, that's the main reason they're still going. They've been going after Tommy this entire time for years. That's the main reason. There are other things. The main reason is if this guy is successful, he's going to blow the roof off of all this, and thousands of people are in trouble. Thousands of people in positions of power are in trouble. Prosecutors, judges, politicians, journalists, police officers, social workers, everyone is screwed if this guy gets his way. So what do? We'll just keep locking him up over complete idiotic nonsense. And people fall for it. Shame on Tommy. How could you side with Tommy? He's far right. What?
Far right.
He's far right. He thinks that this stuff needs to be exposed. Only the far right think that. Weird stuff, man.
Well, I would say that so everything taken into consideration, I think one of the most important things to make sure during this inquiry is we need to make sure
inquiry.
that
it's inquiry. Okay.
We need to make sure that this inquiry and inquiry, both of them are led by an organization that will make sure that this is not done in a racist way. So we need to make sure that this inquiry is led by a Muslim organization or an organization that closely works together with Muslim organization. So yeah.
In fact, we should just let Muslim organizations handle the entire thing.
Yes.
Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and say it. We should let the Pakistani Muslim community in Rotherham handle this entire investigation for open-mindedness and inclusiveness.
Brilliant. In fact, one more thing, which would be if in this inquiry you find a high number of Muslims disproportionately, you should just shut it down or remove those names from the results. So
these are all very, very, very good ideas. There's a reason. There's a reason everyone comes to the answer men, A, P, and D Wood. We've got the answers, ladies and gentlemen.
Powerful.
All right. So, got a bunch of super chats already, but we'll go ahead and start off by, maybe we should read an article real quick. You know what? Let's go ahead and check out Kier Starmer back in January. So in January, there are apparently three. There are more than three. There are apparently three people who played a big role in getting to this stage. So one is Tommy. He's been pushing this for a long time, and he's been the most consistent and the most relentless in going after this. He's the one who exposed the big scandal to begin with. So Tommy, and then more recently, Elon, he drew a bunch of attention to it while Tommy's locked up and so on. But Elon draws a ton of attention to this. Elon makes it more of an international thing. Tommy's focusing on. We heard about it, but a lot more people heard about it as far as outside the UK. People who weren't normally following this stuff heard about it from Elon, and then everyone blasted Elon and so on. But apparently there's some guy who I haven't been following, but it's Great Britain news. I guess they would be considered far right since they were talking about the grooming gangs the entire time. But there's one guy, Charlie something. I wasn't familiar with him, but as soon as there was a national inquiry, I saw tons of people thanking him on X. Thank you for continuing pushing this and actually getting this national inquiry. So we're going to hear from him. We're going to hear a little bit from him. Got a video of that. But let's go ahead and hear Kier Starmer. This is Kier Starmer in January. And Kier Starmer is basically, it's amazing. Dude, this is seriously amazing. Everyone in the government that you ask about this, hey, what's going on? Why haven't we had this national inquiry? Well, why has it just been local things? Why is this not being, why aren't we getting to the bottom of this, finding everyone who's responsible and so on? And every single politician who comments on this is like, what? No one has done more to protect the victims of these gangs than I have. And every single politician says the exact same thing. Every single judge, police officer, anyone who comments, what are you talking about? We've been fighting this all along. We were right there. And it's like, what are you talking about? And they all point to stuff. In March of 2011, I brought up that some guy was doing something. So you see, I was against it the entire time. It's like, okay, if everyone was fighting this so hard, how was it this big thing that was going on that only came and Tommy basically had to force you guys into acknowledging that it was even happening. And then after that, we've been fighting up until today, up until now, to actually do anything to hold people accountable for this stuff. How? If all you people were fighting this all along. But anyway, here's Kier Starmer responding back in January, and he's going to tell us how he's been the champion of the victims the entire time, and he's been doing everything, and he's the one that was saving all these girls. And then in the end, he's going to call it, but you got to watch out because the far right thing.
Oh, yeah. Dangerous.
Got to watch out. Anyway, so here we have everyone, Kier Starmer.
And let me start with this. Child sexual exploitation is utterly sickening. Utterly sickening.
Oh, really?
And for many, many...
You're muted, man.
You heard it here. Let's go back. We heard it here, folks. Ready? Here goes.
And let me start with this. Child sexual exploitation is utterly sickening.
Well, thank you. Okay, well, case closed.
You see, guys, Kier Starmer doesn't approve of child grooming and sexual abuse. He doesn't. He's against it, and he has said it's sickening.
Case closed, man. Thank you. But this is the problem is already solved. I don't know why we're still talking. So thank you so much for this, man. Thank you. We had no idea. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kier. Thank you, Kier Starmer. Thank you so much.
And next he'll tell us that Hitler was bad. And then we'll know because him said it. Him said it. Him smart. Him politician. Him know. Oh boy. Yeah.
And by the way, poop stinks.
And let me say, I do not approve of child sexual abuse and exploitation. Let's get that very clear right now. We do not approve. Thank you. Thank you. So enlightening. Great job, Kier.
Utterly sickening. And for many, many
Yes, you
years, too many victims have been completely let down. Let down by perverse ideas about community relations, or by the idea that institutions must be protected above all else. And they've not been listened to, and they've not been heard. And when I was chief prosecutor for 5 years...
Here you got it? And when I was chief prosecutor, watch, he's gonna portray himself as the hero here.
I tackled that head on, because
He
I
did.
could see what was happening.
He saw it. He dealt with it.
And that's why I reopened cases that had been closed and supposedly finished. I brought the first major prosecution of an Asian grooming gang. In the particular case, it was
Asian?
in Rochdale, but it was the first of its kind. There were many that then followed that.
What do you mean Asian? You mean Chinese?
Asian.
Japanese?
Asian.
Korean?
Asian.
Were they Thai?
Asian.
Were they Vietnamese?
Asian, man. Asian.
Huh. I wonder where, but Asia's pretty big, man. Asia's like really big. Like, I wonder, could you be more specific about where?
Asian.
And think about this, AP, because they're all doing the same thing, right? They were eventually, a bunch of these politicians, including Kier Starmer, they were all eventually forced to do something for show. And now when they're called on it, hey, we need an investigation. Why can't we have an investigation of this? What are you talking about? I prosecuted those. Yeah, after you were forced to, and it was all exposed, you were publicly humiliated and so on. Then you reluctantly dealt with with a tiny fraction of the cases. But now you're looking back, no one has done more than I have. My goodness, garbage people, man.
Format. I changed the whole prosecution approach.
He did. He changed the entire thing.
Because I wanted to challenge and did challenge the myths and stereotypes that were stopping those victims being heard. So
This
we
guy's a
changed
hero,
the
man.
entire approach, not without criticism at the time, I might add. And when I left office, we had the highest number of child sexual abuse cases being prosecuted on record. Now,
We had the highest number because before you weren't prosecuting them all. You weren't prosecuting them all before that. And then you prosecuted a couple of them. You see, we had record numbers. Oh, my goodness.
That record is not secret. As a public servant, it's there for all of you or everybody to see. I also called for mandatory reporting of child sexual abuse. I called for that a decade ago. The Tories did nothing about that for those 10 long years, including when the jail...
Hey, did you hear it? Did you hear it? I was the one fighting this for a decade. The Tories, my political rival, they did nothing about it. You see, there, guys. Guess what? No one did anything about it except Tommy and his buddy. None of you did it. Not I don't even know the groups over there. Tories, who are they? Are they conservatives or are they a different group? Anyway, I hear conservatives, I hear Tories, I hear Labor. I don't know what. None of you did anything about it. None of you. So now it's going to be him and his party. They were the ones fighting against this. The Tories, they did not. None of you did anything until you were forced to. And now you point back to the things that you were forced to do because you'd been exposed. And then you're saying, see, we're the ones fighting it. Bunch of lying cowards.
Report came out nearly 3 years ago now. Central plank, mandatory reporting, still hasn't been done. We're going to do it. But let's just to bring it in closer, and I will answer you on Jess Phillips in particular. Because those that are spreading lies and misinformation as far and as wide as possible.
Elon. Talking about Elon.
Not interested in victims. They're interested in themselves.
See, Elon and his fans and followers, they're not interested in the victims. They're interested in themselves. Unlike the noble politicians who fought tooth and nail to protect these girls, they weren't just considering themselves and their careers as far as silencing all this stuff. No, they said, even if we get in trouble, even if we get called racists, even if we get exposed for bringing in these rapists, we must protect the victims. That's what they were doing until Elon comes along. Elon just cares about himself, everyone.
In my opinion, I don't know if others see it like that as well. But if you are announcing justice, and if you are making a big announcement that you are going to make sure that justice is brought and you are going to make things right, like one big red flag there is that you, even before doing it, while announcing it, you start attacking those people who brought this to the world's attention, and accusing them of having ulterior motives and all that. Like that really discredits you. That really discredits your whole position, doesn't it? It's like, aren't you supposed to focus? You were just forced to talk about this whole thing. You were forced to finally take measures. You were forced to do something that you are actually supposed to do. Instead of focusing on that, he's now attacking people who supposedly spread misinformation. I don't know, man. Not sure how far to trust any of this.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this is not him announcing that they're going to do something. This is January, where it was still, this is what the far right do. So it's, hey, I've already done everything. It's my political rivals that have covered anything up. But anyway, long story short, we don't need to do anything. And only the far right are interested in doing anything. So this is January. This is January. His approval rating, the approval rating of his party has been plummeting. Like I think he has like the lowest approval rating in like recorded history or something like that. I think I saw something like that. I could be wrong. Anyway, if anyone wants to look that up, you can let us know. But I think he has like the lowest approval rating of any British Prime Minister in history. And so over the past, what is it, about the past 2 months he's been trying to change? There's no reason we should be letting boatloads of illegal immigrants come into it. We're going to stop them, yeah. And we're the ones who are launching the investigation into the grooming gangs. And it's all, you see your numbers. And so you realize the people are not with you. The people think you're evil scum. So what do you have to do? You finally have... It's not that you're actually listening to the people, it's you're pretending to listen to the people. Why? Because elections aren't over. There's always another election coming up eventually, and you can't be the party that told the people to go screw themselves your entire administration.
Those who are cheerleading Tommy Robinson, not interested in justice. They're supporting a man who went to prison for nearly collapsing a grooming case.
Liar. You lying scumbag. Dude, if that's all I knew about this dude, I would say lying scumbag. He did nothing that could have come within 1,000 miles of collapsing any case. Guys, if you recall, this is what's amazing. Tommy exposed all this when in his documentary, but I remember back then. But here's the thing. He shows over and over again how politicians and journalists will just lie about everything he's done, and then everyone just picks up the lie and they keep running with it. And then people think that that's what happened. He went out. So there was a grooming gang trial that was lasting months, and the judge put a gag order. Why? He didn't want anyone reporting on it. This is what's screwed up. You have these trials and no one's allowed to report on it until it's all over, And then you'd be allowed to report on it for a day. You get a day of news and then they sweep it under. They don't want people hearing about this or knowing details. So they just, for a trial could go on for 6 months. No one's allowed to say a word about it. Guess what? Tommy wasn't giving any details. See, if you go in and you start sharing details of what's going on in the trial, you can get in trouble because you can actually influence the jury or something like that. Tommy didn't do any of that. The law is that you can't give any information that isn't publicly available already. The only information he shared while he was live outside that trial was publicly available information. He sat there reading a BBC article about the grooming gangs. They arrested him and said, oh, you could have derailed this huge trial and all these men would have gotten off because of what? Because he did something that he was allowed to do. And even then, if you wanted to say, you caused a problem, okay, that should be like a fine or something like that. That's what that should be. Or if you wanted to say jail, they don't send anyone to jail for this. And they gave him 13 months in prison for it. Mm-hmm. This is insane. Again, guys, I've been to prison. I never heard of anyone who's went to prison for reading a BBC article outside a trial. No one can hear him. People can hear him he's live on he was live on Facebook reading a BBC article. None of that was against the law. None of that was against the law. Not the law says you can't give any information about the trial that's going on. So he didn't. Publicly available information. 13 months they sentenced him to.
And there's also the thing, look, what does the public know about Tommy Robinson? What is there that makes the public that is against Tommy Robinson? What makes them against Tommy Robinson? When you ask the people, what they usually will tell you is, "Oh, Tommy Robinson is a racist, is bigoted, is Islamophobic, is xenophobic, this and that." People don't talk about how he's bad because he disrupted a process. Now, if it is even true, and if he did get legally out of line, if he did disrupt some process, I'm sorry, but there should be. He did so righteously. He did so justifiably.
He's mad you can't report on this stuff
because he's. Because there are many years, there are decades of perversions, decades of cruelties against children, against English people in this nation, decades of corruption, decades of cover-ups, decades of nothing being done, decades of things being swept under the rug. Of course, somebody who seeks justice, who fights for justice, might get out of line and disrupt your processes that are not very reliable, while in order to draw attention to what is actually happening here. That's why he's a villain, seriously. And this is you can, what I just brought up, you can see here the big problem. This guy vilifies Tommy Robinson because Tommy Robinson nearly collapsed an investigation. Nobody among the regular people dislikes him because of this. People talk about him for all kinds of different reasons. Because he's a racist, he's Islamophobic and all that. These are just excuses, man.
Yeah, and so here's the situation, guys. There's a trial going on. The judge orders everyone's silence. Reporters cannot report on a trial. So there's an ongoing trial about all the stuff that these guys did to these young girls. And they tell reporters, don't say a word about it. Okay, that's sick and evil. You're part of the cover-up. You're part of the cover-up. You are part of the entire system that's trying to cover up what happened to the girls and who was responsible. You're part of this. You're part of the cover-up. Tommy looks at the law, looks at the legal code, and says, what am I allowed to do? What am I still allowed to do? Well, I'm actually allowed to go outside the courthouse, and I'm allowed to go live, and I'm allowed to share any information that is already publicly available. I can't say what's actually going on in the trial that's not publicly available. I can't give new information. I can share information that's publicly available. So he goes down there, and that's all he does. They locked him up anyway. And then that's used against him for years. So you're talking years later right now. And Tommy Robinson, if you want to know how evil he is, he almost completely derailed something by reading a BBC article on Facebook Live. You see, I mean, that could have brought the entire thing down. It could have brought it all down. You're an evil scumbag, Kier Starmer. But I mean, he's sitting here, but he keep in mind, he just used that as evidence that Tommy isn't concerned about the girls, isn't concerned about the thing. He's only concerned. He just used that to prove that Tommy can't be trusted. Why? Because Tommy said, I at least want to say something about this trial that's going on so that people know that it's going on and they know why they're not hearing anything about it because it's silence. That's what shows he's not sincere and he's not serious about this. This is sick stuff, man. This is sick. The whole country's sick, man. Whole government is sick. All right, let's let him go.
A gang grooming case. These are people who are trying to get some kind of vicarious thrill from street violence that people like Tommy Robinson promote. And those attacking Jess Phillips, who I'm proud to call a colleague and a friend, not protecting victims. Jess Phillips has done 1,000 times more than they've even dreamt about when it comes to protecting victims of sexual abuse.
But not as much as you, Kier, because you're the king of protecting.
And so just
victims.
as I took on
the
criminal justice system and the institutions when I was chief prosecutor, I'm prepared to call out this for what it is. We've seen this playbook many times.
Far right.
Whipping up of intimidation and threats of violence, hoping that the media will amplify it.
Come on, far right. Say far right.
Now, Jess Phillips does not need me or anybody else to speak on her behalf. But when the poison of the far right leads to serious threats...
You get it? Far right, ladies and gentlemen, the far right. Why? So, everyone, this is when Elon was calling these guys out. Why are you guys still covering this up? Why are you still sweeping this under the rug? Why are you still destroying the lives of anyone who speaks out about this stuff? What's going on? And there you have it. This is a far right thing.
It's the far right, man.
The boogeyman of the far right. Again, all you have to do is spend years from the time people are children convincing them the most evil thing you could be is far right. It's the same thing people used to do with, like, Nazi. You'd say Nazi back in the day. The worst thing you could be is Nazi. And then what? Oh, if you're doing this, then that's what a Nazi would do. So now now it's just far right, the boogeyman of the far right. The last thing you want to be is far right. And then once you've gotten people to absorb that idea, the worst thing you could be is far right, then any behavior you do not like, you just say that's what the far right do. And what is this? This is Elon Musk saying, how's this been going on for years and you still haven't investigated the people who are responsible for covering this up? How is it we can't even understand how that's possible in the modern world. One, that you would have covered, one, that you would have let this happen, two, that you would cover it up, and three, that you would still, after all these years, still be covering it up. How is this a thing? Well, you see the far right, they don't really care about any of this. They're just trying to get attention for themselves. Meanwhile, we are the real heroes who've dealt with this. Freaking idiots.
Nobody has done more than I did.
Me and the Labour Party are the true heroes in this entire movie.
When the poison of the far right leads to serious threats to Jess Phillips and others, then in my book, a line has been crossed. I enjoy the cut and thrust of politics, the robust debate that we must have, but that's got to be based on facts and truth, not on lies.
We're not allowed to have the truth because you guys don't even let people report on the trials. So,
not on those who are so.
At least he said it's got to be based.
He said it has to be based.
Desperate for attention, that they're prepared to debase themselves and their country. So, this government will get on with the job of protecting victims, including child sexual abuse, mandatory reporting, accelerating the processes. But what I won't tolerate is this discussion and debate based on lies without calling it out. What I won't tolerate is politicians jumping on the bandwagon simply to get attention, when those politicians sat in government for 14 long years, tweeting, talking, but not doing anything about it. Now so desperate for attention that they're amplifying what the far right is saying.
Hear it?
So that's what I say about Jess Phillips.
I mean, there's one thing that he's right about, which is that the Conservatives haven't done a single thing either.
None of them. No one did.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that he's the good one now. So.
Roll all your parties up into one big ball. None of them did anything. Get that right. You are not the hero in this whole situation. But did you see what he did at the end? So he brings up Tommy. He brings up the far right and Tommy. And the far right, they're just trying to get violence out of this. Tommy, he's just trying to get attention for himself. He doesn't name Elon, but he was clearly talking about Elon because that's the reason he had this. He was saying anything to begin with. Elon's just interested in attention for himself. And any politicians who actually agree with them and say, you know what, these guys are right. Maybe we do need to have a national inquiry to get to the bottom of this and to see who's responsible. He says, see, you're just jumping on the bandwagon of the far right to get some cheap points with the far right. What's that mean? It means anyone who thinks that this needs to be investigated or dealt with is evil. You're all evil. You're all selfish. There's no one involved here who's calling for a national inquiry and who wants the people who knew what was happening to be held responsible. There's no one who's sincere and wants something done. And the good people like Kier Starmer, he's already done his part. And so there's nothing else to do. There's nothing else to be done, guys. And anyone who says more things need to be done is just in it for some ulterior motive. That was January. Now, of course, they're having a national inquiry. So isn't this funny? Any politician who says, hey, we need a national inquiry is just jumping on the bandwagon of the far right. Wow. Yeah. It looks like Kier Starmer just jumped on the bandwagon of the far right, according to him, his own words. According to his own words, Kier Starmer just jumped on the bandwagon of the far right because now he's saying they're going to have a national inquiry. All right. So we're going to check. We just checked that out. That was January. We'll look at an article or two here. We got some articles. A bunch of articles came out yesterday, and then we'll look at this Charlie guy on Great Britain News. We got that clip. Yeah, we'll check all that out. Take some super chats real quick. TikTok, time to rock. You're way late, man. That was minutes ago. Make a video about Ali Dawa's secret wife. Salman didn't put that in the video title and challenge him to do mubahala as he did for the blackmailing. Yeah, I haven't seen. I started watching the new Behind Veils video. It's about Ali Dawa and exposing Ali Dawa. And apparently, Salman, I see people, again, I haven't gotten to this part, but Salman has been asking some serious questions to Ali Dawa about some hotel wife or something like that I think in Mecca. Interesting. Isn't it interesting that like all these Dawa guys are doing this stuff? And it's funny because Hijab said they were all doing it. Hijab said they're all doing like these polygamous marriages and so on.
And he was laughing about how people that you would expect it from the least, they have done it too.
Yeah, like you wouldn't expect Ali Dawa considering he's such a weaselly little pipsqueak. Doesn't have a drop of testosterone in his entire body. But even he is doing it. Yes, we all do it.
Even he does it.
And to be surprised. So it's not surprising Ali Dawa is doing this slimy stuff. Again, Hijab has acknowledged that they're all doing it. But Hijab said he knows like one da'i who has like 40 kids because of all the different wives he's been banging. So now, if that were Ali Dawa, if that turned out to be Ali Dawa, that would be surprising, right? These guys doing their hotel marriages and mutta wives and stuff like that, that's not surprising at all. I've assumed all along that they were doing that. You can kind of tell by the way they talk about this stuff. But if Ali Dawa was the one who has like 40 kids or something like that, I would be shocked. In fact, Ali Dawa, If that's you, go ahead and brag it. I won't even criticize. I will be so surprised. I won't even criticize you. I'll be like, whoa, Ali Dawa, little pipsqueak Ali Dawa. Anyway.
In fact, I will apologize for having talked so much trash about you, Ali Dawa.
Yeah, we'll think that you're super strong and based and manly, that you have the sexual strength of 30 men, just like a prophet. Skyscraper Philosopher here says, reports that Trump rejected Israeli plan to kill Khamenei. Thoughts? Don't know.
I think that Israel should do it anyway if they have the chance. But yeah, I did see those reports, but there are kind of debates about how true it actually is.
Isn't that dude like in his 70s or 80s or something?
Maybe. But it would be like taking him out would be a huge move. You know, it would be a big destabilization of the Islamic regime, and would motivate lots of people there to rise up.
Yeah, here's the thing. I have no idea who's saying what behind the scenes and who's giving permission for what behind the scenes and so on. If the Trump administration is saying, no, don't cross any more lines here because we want to get these guys to the negotiating table and have them sign a document, I would say, you know what? I'm not interested in listening to you guys. If there's something else going on that's along the lines of, hey, keep doing what you're doing. Don't take out. Let the people let the people finish taking out the government. You know, you keep blowing up all their sites, taking out their military leaders, but let the people rise up and take over the government. That I can see. If you want the people to be responsible for it, because at the end of the day, even though we would all love to see and we hope to see good relations between a future democratic Iran and Israel, you don't want to be a regime. You don't want to be the new regime that was put in place by Israel.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't. If Israel did some things that helped you, but you were ultimately the one who was responsible, you're still good. If Israel actually took out your leader and put in another one, there will be people who never trust you and always use that against the government. In other words, 20 years from now, they'll still be, you see, you're the government that was put there by Israel and the Jews, and the Jews are controlling you and stuff. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what people's intentions are, and I don't know what the details are. Hi, David. Still on for UK mission Imam possible? Not sure. I got the general idea, but it's kind of not enough to go on. Took less than 5 minutes for AP to get racist. I know. Oh, AP stays racist, and that's to be fair, he's Turkish, so
that's true.
Should U.S. give bunker buster bombs to Israel? Why or why not? Don't they have bunker buster bombs?
I think Israel said that they need support for it because they don't have sufficient amount of bunker buster. I think that's what they said. I don't know.
Kind of depends on what it's used for. So, guys, the bunker busters, that's the one that like shoots into the ground and then blows up a bunker underneath it and stuff like that. So, if you have some sort of, it would depend on what it's for. If you're saying, hey, there's some underground nuclear facility and we want to blow that thing up, I'd give it to them in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think as far as I remember, and as far as I can quickly see from like looking at things for 5 seconds, is that Israel did ask for help in equipment because there are certain places, including part of the Iranian nuclear program, that are difficult to access and with which Israel would need help with special ammunition and equipment, such as bunker busters.
Jacob says, hail our living Lord Jesus. Yes.
Indeed.
D. Wood, I just found out you follow Mike Winger on the app formerly known as Twitter. Are you a clandestine wingeling? Yeah. Apparently you're not familiar with Sun Tzu's Art of War. What does he say? Know your enemy. Jesus says, love your enemy, so you got to do that. Sun Tzu says, know your enemy. That's also true. How have the English not revolted yet? If it happened in my community, I'd be in Punisher mode.
They're drunk, man.
Punisher mode, Charles Bronson mode, and so on. Also, crusade to liberate all Christian lands when? As soon as AP's baptized. As far as the English not revolting, this is why I've been saying I don't think that Europe will, collapse to Islam or something like that. You'll eventually get it, but as long as it's a couple of people or a small minority, it's kind of hard to start a big uprising against the government, because you need everyone on board, or you need a massive number of people that can't be stopped. That's hard to get started, because anyone who starts it, they get crushed. What happened when people were getting ticked off about some kids getting killed or something like that? What happened when the people, we'll do something about this? What happened? The government crushed them, just went and grabbed them all and tossed them in prison. That was a warning. That was, hey, we are not going to let this get started. Eventually something, probably just because this stuff is not going to stop happening, sadly. But eventually something extremely messed up is going to happen, and people just aren't gonna stop. They're not gonna back down from the threats and prison and so on. Because keep in mind, here's what people don't get: the people don't realize how much power they have. If everyone just stood up right now and said, we're not putting up with this, guess what? Government's done. The government's done. The government has to comply, or you can get rid of the government. But you don't have all those people. I actually used to think about this when I was in prison. When I was in prison, I used to just sit around looking and going, if we're in a prison with 1,000 people and we all just say, who does most of the work in the prison? The inmates. We do everything. There are guards who are making sure we don't get out and who are telling us what to do, but we're the ones doing all the cooking, the cleaning, all this stuff. We're the ones doing all that. Guess what? If the entire prison of let's say 1,000 people sits down and says, you know what, we're not working. Guess what? They still have to feed us. It's required. They still have to feed us. They still have to do all kinds of things. If we don't do if we're already doing the vast majority of the work, and then we say, you know what, we're not doing it, that stuff still has to get done. They would just have to hire tons of people to come and do it. And all of a sudden, the price of keeping these inmates would skyrocket. So it's like, it's always in my head, like, the inmates actually have the power. They just don't realize it. And if someone did, if one inmate says, oh, we will do this, they would get crushed. They would get crushed. The guards would stick them in solitary confinement. If all the inmates said, you know what, we don't like what's going on, so we're going to sit back and do nothing, the administration would have to grant some concessions. But that exact same thought can apply to an entire nation. You don't believe? Just look at how we dealt with the British government when we didn't like what they said. We showed how it's done.
Yep.
Wonder how BBC and media cover grooming inquiry. That's going to be a good question. Again, it's our concern here is, one, it's good that they're doing something. We hope that it exposes some people and does some good. But who's doing it? The government. Do we trust these guys? No. Do they do things just for show? Yes. So can we trust this entire system? Unless they make it somehow, as AP was saying, transparent or have an outside group doing it. I don't trust any of it. Victims should be able to testify incognito. There will be some of that. Wonder if J.K. Rowling will comment on grooming inquiry. Not sure. Hope they fix this. As mom of girls, I don't trust Kier Starmer. Thanks for what you do. You helped me come to Christ together with Nabil and Winger.
Nice.
Interesting.
Shout out to Mike Winger.
Mike Winger's far right. Which countries do you think are screwed for the future, and which do you think can turn it around and are safe in terms of Islam? I think lots of countries can turn it around. It's just they're not. Most aren't until there's going to be an absolute bloodbath, and then they'll do it, and then it's going to be a big bloody mess or a civil war or something like that, when they could have dealt with it sooner and more peacefully.
I think that so the UK is pretty much screwed. And things will go wrong, and things will go probably worse before they might get better, before things might be turned around. But I don't think that there is any very, very reasonable, peaceful resolution to what's already happened so far. If the trajectory continues as it is, then things might get even worse. There are some other countries, like, I don't know, Sweden is problematic, France is slightly problematic. I would say one country that we don't talk about very much, but that is pretty much screwed already, is Belgium. But then again, it's not really a country. It's just a fake entity. So yeah, that's that.
Take a couple more. We've got a bunch, so we'll read a couple more, and then we will check out an article. We'll check out a Reuters article on this. We just want everyone to be up to date on what's going on so that people can be paying attention as it's happening. There are people involved that will make sure the government inquiry will be thorough, and all of those that covered it up will be accountable. Rupert Lowe is one of them. Well, I mean, I hope that's the case. I just don't believe that's the case. You're saying there will be people involved that will make sure the government inquiry will be thorough, and all those that covered up will be accountable. Are you kidding me? You have any idea how many politicians, police officers, prosecutors, and so on have dirty hands in this? That's what there are a lot of powerful people involved here. It's kind of hard to do things when you have a lot of powerful people are going to be tossing a monkey wrench in everything you do.
Powerful.
Stop embarrassing yourself, AP. You're a cry for attention. See, first Kier Starmer saying people do things just for attention when they have evil, nefarious agenda, and then you prove them right after I'm telling everyone he's wrong. Your stupid wingling shirt. Let's see. Knows too much says, AP, it's not a moral obligation of Israel to resupply and feed their enemies in war. True. I think something can be a good thing to do and not be an obligation. No other country is held to this insane, suicidal standard. That's part 1 of 3. Hang on. Let's go through the 3 parts here. 2 of 3. Morally, this should never be done until unconditional surrender. The Allies didn't resupply and feed the Germans or the Japanese in World War II. Palestinists in Gaza, even those against Hamas, don't disagree with Hamas on the cause of Hebrew genocide. Their issue is consequences of their actions for the genocidal war that they started. All right, AP, what are your thoughts on this?
So here is the thing. First off, the Allies did take care of many of the civilians in Germany, for example, especially while they were fighting and bombing Germany. So there were some instances where they very brutally bombed certain cities and territories. At the same time, Britain, the US, and others were making sure that they give everyone, all the civilians, advanced knowledge of what is happening. They were communicating day and night with civilians, and they were also trying to encourage civilians to seek different means to seek shelter and to receive help from the Allies. Whenever the Allies took territory, they made sure to take care of the civilian population as much as possible and to feed them and all that. So the Allies did indeed do their best, although it was kind of lacking compared to what they would probably do today to take care of the civilian population. I would say that when you say the enemy, you're right. Israel is under no obligation and also should not be morally required to take care of their enemy. If we are talking about Hamas and other terrorist organizations and those who are like-minded. However, Gaza is not just 100% full of those people. Gaza also has lots of other civilians who don't want any part of this. Even if we go by the best, most reliable surveys, we can see that over 60% or maybe 70% of the population on October 7 said that what Hamas did was a good thing. But what about the rest of them? What about the rest of them? There are lots of people there who are victims of the whole situation as well. It would be pretty messed up to let them all starve to death because Hamas is disgusting. And I know it is a brutal war, and I am very much on your side in terms of seeing much of what is happening as a necessity, as an ugly necessity. But even your Bible will tell you that you should feed those that you're fighting, or the other side. and also by humanitarian standards, by human rights standards, I think it would be good to try as much as possible to still feed them. I am not saying that you should do whatever, you should go out of your way and be as nice to these people as possible and accept them, and then be like the West. No, on the contrary, I think, and I still say, and I still agree that a proper solution would be to take care of those people and then to resettle them to somewhere else where they will no longer be Israel's problem. However, you should also probably not let them die, I would say.
Yeah. So I agree with AP on all of that, and there are multiple issues here. So are you required to help the population of your enemy and so on? I don't think you have an actual obligation that you're required to do. In the situation that Israel is in, I think that it is the right thing to do. Keep in mind when you're saying, but the general people, they still, really? But they're babies there, man. They're toddlers. They're toddlers who've never formulated a thought on this. And they would be they would also be the ones starving. In fact, they would be the first ones starving because Hamas would make sure their soldiers are fed, right? And guess what? Who does Hamas want starving? Let me put it this way. Do you think Hamas would rather Israel starve the population or fed the population? What do you think Hamas would want?
Starve.
I think Hamas would want Israel to starve the entire population to death, just to increase hostility against Israel and to say, you see, it is a genocide. So be careful. Be careful if you're doing what your enemy actually wants you to do. What does Hamas want? They're trying to maximize civilian casualties. And what are you saying right now? Yes, Israel should maximize civilian casualties and starve them all. Right? So, one, you have to be careful. So, just practically speaking, what is it that is increasing hostility against Israel? It's all these, this is why they had Pallywood, right? This is why they had Pallywood. Look, here's my baby. Now, sometimes kids are actually killed in bomb strikes and so on, but lots of times it's actually fake. Why are they actually cranking out all these videos left and right? Because that's the best way to increase global hostility against Israel. You're saying dial that hostility up by like 10,000-fold. Just have Israel just like literally just close the borders and no more aid, and all these people starve to death. Babies, little kids starve to death. All those videos are going up daily. Look at what Israel's doing. Is that wise? No. So you have that. AP was pointing out biblically. I mean, keep in mind, you had Sodom, a place where if a stranger showed up, the entire town would gather around to gang rape the person. And Abraham says, God, what if there's a few righteous people in there? God says, if there are 10 righteous, if you find 10 righteous people in that town, I will not destroy it. So there is a biblical idea. Even if you're talking about a minority, you should strive to protect the minority, even if you have to deal with the majority and so on. So you have those kinds of situations. And at the end of the day, as AP was pointing out, you do have people who are not on board. You do have people who want to live moral, regular lives and so on, who are not on board with Hamas, what Hamas is doing. And guess what? You have more of those than you realize, because it's difficult for people to speak out against Hamas because they'll show up and kill you, right? So you have that. So you have the people who are against Hamas. I don't know why you'd want to starve them, but even more than that, you do have to think about the future. Some people do change their minds. And you should be thinking, hey, maybe there are some people who are currently against Israel, but who in the future could be, could change their minds and hearts and so on. We're probably not going to do that by starving them to death. You could do that by doing everything you can to help them while you're taking out terrorists and so on. So the point is I understand where you're coming from. And I think Israel would be justified in saying, you know what, until these guys surrender, and as long as they've got our people hostages, we'll turn off we'll shut down their electricity, their water, everything else until they hand over our hostages. I think you'd be justified in doing that. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's the wisest or the best or the most moral move in all of this. So,
yeah. So, if we were saying, if the hypothetical here was, or if the reality was, that if you refuse to give this population the means to survive, then they will be forced to surrender. If that was the case, I would say, okay, maybe there is maybe there is a chance to pressure them and to take something away in order to pressure Hamas and the population to surrender and to be done with this war. But we all know that this is not the case. We all know that if you let this population starve, if you take their means of survival away, Hamas does not care about their well-being. Hamas will let them die. Hamas will let them starve, and then will use this opportunity to depict you as the evil one. So this is a very, very bad case. David, did you just mention the book? Did you just mention Jonah? Or you mentioned no, you mentioned something else. Okay, yeah, I'm thinking of Jonah as a great example. Which is biblical, which is where he is told to preach to the Ninevites in order to make them turn from their ways, but he really doesn't want to do it. Not just because he's afraid of them or anything like that. It's also because he doesn't want God to forgive them.
Yeah, he wants them punished. He wants them all dead. Jonah, the prophet Jonah, wants all these people dead.
He wants justice. He wants them punished. He is very upset that God would actually tell him to go and preach to them and set them straight and all that. But he runs away. He refuses, and God eventually leads him there. And the entire story, which is a very short story, which is beautiful, just ends with God basically teaching Jonah a lesson and saying, "Should I not forgive these people? There are so many of them." So it's basically Jonah resenting these people, rightly so, because they are horrible people. But God still, despite everything, sending him over there and letting him preach there, and then forgiving those people, despite how absolutely horrible they are. Because no matter how bad they are still redeemable to an extent. I would say that is actually a very good story to take from, and to not despise a population so much that you would be fine with simply letting them all die.
And here you have Alex says, that's true. However, in the book of Joshua, Israelites were supposed to destroy everything in Canaan because of the Canaanites' wickedness, Deuteronomy 9. Yeah, not quite. You might want to take a closer look at that. One, God gave them 4 centuries to repent of what they were doing. Did you just give 4 centuries to the Palestinians to repent of what they're doing with Hamas and so on? Did you give them sufficient time and so on? God gave them 4 centuries to repent of things like child sacrifice and stuff. They didn't. And in addition to that, you need to be careful with how you interpret this, because those passages about completely destroy, those are used interchangeably with drive them off the land. And God even says how's he going to destroy? You're going to drive them off the land little by little. So what's that? He's not completely. I know you have, dude. Seriously, you need to read these passages, because people will look. It says completely wipe them out, and guess what? It'll say sometimes in the exact same passage, you're going to drive them out little by little, over time, and so on. So what's that mean? Well, that's what AP was saying. That's get control of them and then deport them to another part. You can't be here. You can't be here. You're too dangerous to be right here. We're not opposed to that. We're not opposed to that. You're talking about something different when, hey, these guys are fighting against us and you have a bunch of people there who don't approve and so on. And it will be used. Guys, seriously, if Israel said no more food, no more water, no more electricity, we're shutting it all down and starving the entire population to death, do you think that works out for it? Seriously, do you think that works for Israel? Like straight up. So suppose we don't care at all about anyone there. We think they're all garbage and we don't care. You could be the nicest person or a Christian or whoever. You could be the nicest person in the world. You could be a baby. We do not care. Suppose we don't care. Do you think it's good for Israel to starve all those people to death? Do you seriously think that's a good idea? Do you think that makes things better for Israel? Do you think Israel would be in a better position in the global community? If you're saying, if you say yes, I think you're out of touch with reality.
Even put aside the global perception, right? Put everything aside. Let's say we don't care at all about the perception of the world. We don't care about any of this. Let's say you actually go through with it and you say, you know what? Everything shut off, everything cut off. We don't care. We'll just let them starve. We'll just let them, survive by their own means and not do anything about it and wait until they surrender. Hamas doesn't want to surrender. Hamas doesn't want the people to surrender. Let's say you actually let them starve. Suddenly, on your hands, you have an entire region full of people who will be starving to death. Imagine the consequences of that. Imagine the consequences of handling that. Imagine the consequences of that on your own population, on your own psychology, on your own people. Imagine the consequences of that on your own history. I don't think you actually want to do that. You know? If you think this is just a strategy to force them to surrender, I don't think it's going to work. So
I think Hamas would love it. I think Hamas would be thrilled. I think Hamas would be absolutely thrilled if you starve the population. And yeah, so the big picture here is Israel wants to be clear. Israel wants it to be clear and needs it to be clear that they are the better people in this entire conflict. And even though they clearly are, I mean, massively better, like they're handling things way better. They're like orders of magnitude better people than, the people they're fighting against and so on. They still get represented as evil. What do you how much worse would that be? How much worse would that be? How much more difficult would it be to convince the world that they're the better people if they, starve 1 million plus people to death, including, so anyway, good luck with that. But I don't think I think that the Israeli government is wiser than to go along with what you just suggested. Part and parcel, just like how HK police conducted investigation for HK police government triad gangs corruption, we're going to have to dig deep to force these idiots to budge. Yeah, I seriously want to see how this proceeds, because they could surprise me and it could be a legitimate inquiry, or it could just be all for show, and that's going to suck. Thank you and bless you both for covering this important topic. David, I'm obsessed with your Ali Dawa impression. You sound more like him than he does. Yeah, it's funny. I heard a clip from Ali Dawa earlier, like on Twitter or something like that. No, it was part of someone else's video. It was a video, and then it cut to Ali Dawa. And for a second, I thought it was me impersonating him. Like, oh, they're using me. They're using my Ali Dawa impersonation. I was like, oh, no, that's actually Ali Dawa. And so, now when I hear Ali Dawa, if I'm not looking at him, I think it's myself imitating him. So these are fun times. Anyway, we got a bunch more super chats, but let's go ahead and check out an article real quick. Let's check out an article so everyone, again, stays up to date on this. What do we have here? So this is Reuters. Britain's Starmer. Yay, Starmer the hero. He was the hero in the past and he's the hero now. And he says that anyone who's concerned about this is jumping on the far right bandwagon. But by golly, hero Starmer decided to jump on the far right bandwagon. He is now part of the far right. Britain's Starmer announces national inquiry into grooming gangs. Let's see. This is a short article, so we'll just go and probably read the whole thing real quick. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said on Saturday he would accept a recommendation for a national inquiry into grooming gangs who sexually abused thousands of girls, having previously resisted calls for a statutory review. You certainly need to do more investigating into the grooming gangs. I'm really concerned about the people who covered it up. The scandal, which revealed how gangs of mostly Pakistan... Dude, what are you saying, Guardian? Or Reuters? Oh, it's Reuters. Okay, they said Pakistani. I was like, you're supposed to say Asian, but Reuters is not... Okay, Reuters is not controlled by the British government. The scandal, which revealed how gangs of mostly Pakistani men had groomed, trafficked, and raped young white girls more than a decade ago. Now, it's still going on, guys. You just have to be a little more careful about it now. Returned to the political agenda this year after U.S. billionaire Elon Musk criticized the British government. Thank you, Elon. This right now would not be happening without Elon, would not be happening without Tommy. On Saturday, Musk responded to a post on X thanking him for drawing attention to the matter, saying he is glad to hear this is happening. But he's only interested in it for himself, isn't it? Interior Minister Yvette Cooper in January asked Louise Casey, a former senior official, to undertake a rapid audit of the scale and nature of gang-based exploitation in Britain. Well, we have an idea of the scale. You're talking hundreds of thousands of girls and thousands of Pakistani men, entire families of guys. I think in one town it was 8% of the Pakistani population was raping girls and so on. Anyway, So we know the scale of that. I'm interested in the scale of the cover-up and who was covering it up and how high this goes. Casey's report is expected to say that vulnerable white British girls were institutionally ignored by police and local authorities, fearing being accused of racism, Sky News reported on Saturday. Yes, we're familiar with that. Casey's position when she started the audit was that there was not a real need for that's interesting. So she changed her mind. So she looked into things to decide whether they need a national inquiry. And she thought no at first. And then she looked into it. And then she said, yes, we need one. So apparently there's stuff that is not common knowledge now, public knowledge, and that needs to be exposed. Casey's position when she started the audit was that there was not a real need for a national inquiry over and above what was going on. Starmer told reporters en route to the G7 summit in Canada on Saturday. She has come to the view that there should be a national inquiry on the basis of what she has seen. I have read every single word of her report, and I'm going to accept her recommendation. That's good. And the Conservative Party leader, Kemi Badenoch, said Starmer had to be led by the nose to make what she said was the correct decision. So he basically had to be forced into it. Wow. I've been repeatedly calling for a full national inquiry since January, she said. Many survivors of the grooming gangs will be relieved that this is finally happening, but they need a resolution soon, not in 10 years' time. Yeah. You don't want them to be this slow thing of, oh, yeah, we're on it. And nothing ever happens, and they just pretend they're on it. So here's a reaction from Samantha Smith, who is one of the grooming gang victims. I think she's the one who said it started when she was 5, and that she grew up, her and the other girls she knew, they grew up thinking it's normal. They just thought it was normal life that young British girls are raped and gang raped and pimped by Muslims. She just thought this was normal life. Like that's all she knew. That's the only existence she knew, and she thought that was normal. It's just a Pakistani dude can just walk up to you and grab you and do whatever he wants to you, and that's just life. And that's seriously messed up. But she says, don't be fooled. Starmer only announced a national inquiry to woo back the same voters he once branded far-right thugs. Labour doesn't care about the countless little girls who were raped, exploited, and killed by Pakistani Muslim gangs. They never did. And they don't now. I hope things are better than they look, but what she just said is basically my position. They don't care. They care about votes. They care about, under no circumstances do they want to be accused of racism. They need the Muslim vote in the various cities and so on. And so I do not expect them to be taking this seriously. And as far as I can tell, based on decades of their behavior, there are people who are far more concerned about remaining in power and achieving power than they are about little girls. They will gladly sacrifice those little girls for votes. That's what it looks like. And that's not just Labour. That seems like the entire British political scene. Journalists, all of them. Sick, evil stuff, AP.
It is.
They're very sick. Let's
Very,
take a couple more super chats, and we'll check out The Guardian to see if they have a different perspective, because we need a good British publication. Maybe they'll say Asian and not Pakistanis.
It was a lot of Asians.
I have to say, when I saw Pakistanis, I was like horrified. I was like, how dare you? You're condemning all Pakistanis. You're supposed to say Asians.
Are you insane, man?
So I was really horrified. So hopefully, I seriously don't know. I know there's a Guardian article that I pulled up, but we'll see what they say. Are they going to say Asian? Hang on. Guys, I seriously don't know. Let's do a poll. No one look. No one cheat and look. No one cheat and look. And don't vote if you already read the article and you know. I don't know. I'm just interested in what people think. Will the Guardian call the grooming gangs Pakistani or Asian? Will the Guardian call the grooming gangs Pakistani or Asian? Here's what's crazy. Apparently, it's so common in the UK that now when they hear Asian, they know you're talking about Pakistanis. But that's weird to us. When we hear in the United States, when we hear Asian, we do not think Pakistanis. We don't think Pakistanis. We don't think Indians. We don't think any of that stuff. When someone says Asian, you're talking, to us, that would mean Chinese, Japanese, Korean, something like that. Because if you're talking about Pakistanis, you'd say Pakistanis. If you're talking about Indians, you'd say Indians. If you say Asian, that's sort of the whole area of China, Japan, and so on. So anyway, whenever you say Asians, we're thinking like, what? Bunch of Chinese guys going around raping these little girls? Shame on those Chinese guys. That's what an American hears when you say Asians.
The funny thing is, when I hear Asian, what I think of is generally Chinese, but possibly also like Vietnamese and Thai.
Yeah.
And then, but I don't think of Korean and Japanese, for example. I think of them separately, which is very weird. I don't know.
No, you're weird. Let's see. Leftists never admit their mistakes or sins.
Leftists suck.
It's not just leftists in this situation. It's people with political power or people whose job is depending on. I mean, keep in mind, if you're a police, I mean, seriously, if you're just a police officer and you were told, hey, you better keep your mouth shut about what's going on over there, or you'll be accused of being a racist and you'll be out of this department because we can't hire racists here. We can't have racist police officers. And so you're part of the cover-up. It's kind of difficult years later when now you're lieutenant or captain or something like that. Yep, I actually helped cover up the grooming gang scandal. Who's going to trust you? I mean, we'll think it's good that you're confessing and so on, but we would know that you're easy to silence for your own welfare. You would actually toss little girls under the bus and allow them to be gang raped to protect yourself. Do we want you as a police lieutenant or something? No. So people stepping forward and saying, yeah, I was part of the cover up and so on. Here's what I did. This isn't about left or right. This is about self-preservation. People are going to want to preserve themselves and preserve their jobs and preserve their careers and so on. And they're not going to want anyone to know what they did. And so that's going to be some difficult stuff. But I hope people are exposed because this is some sick stuff, man. And for real, the reason it needs to be exposed is you need the reverse to happen, right? You need people to know they can't get away with it. They can't get away with looking the other way when this stuff happens. You need future generations to know, hey, if someone pressures you into allowing some horrible evil, you are going to eventually be exposed. So better call it when you see it. Better call it out when you see it. If you help cover it up, you're going to be exposed later on, and your life will be destroyed. So don't ever do it. You are far-right thugs, Sir Kier Starmer. Yes, we're all far-right thugs. Kier Starmer is a far-right thug now. Not sure if you have seen it, but you guys should watch the film Tommy made confronting the groomers in Telford with love from the UK.
Haven't seen it, but we should.
Tommy's a beast. He's
not why are you calling him a beast?
AP, you should find out if he's still in the Bahamas. If he is, we should just fly down there and record some videos with him. If he's just sitting down there chilling, man.
The funny thing about Tommy Robinson is that you message him and then he gets back to you like 50 years later or something.
Oh, worst case scenario, he doesn't get back to you, or he gets back to you 50 years from now. Just say, hey, are you in the Bahamas still? If so, you want to do some recording? If so, we'll fly down there and record some stuff for you. David and AP, don't pick on Muslim grooming gangs. What about BBC Jimmy Savile scandal or Catholic Church priest PDF scandal in USA? Your responses? I hope you're joking here. Because, what happens when those things happen? We expose them. And keep in mind, you do have a similar dynamic. This is what Jordan Peterson points out, that various abusers of various kinds, especially with personality disorders like psychopaths and narcissists and so on, they will work themselves into places like a church or something like that where They won't be exposed because people don't want to hurt the institution and so on. So that's how they get away with it for years and stuff. Like, keep in mind, if you're a victim and you've been groomed by that priest, do you want to make a big deal out of it, knowing that will hurt the church? No, of course you don't. And guess what? A person will work himself into the position of a priest just to get that ability to abuse people without being held to account. Fortunately, that got exposed. That got exposed. Why? People said, you know what? We have to expose this stuff anyway. But here's the big difference. That stuff is recognized as evil in the Catholic Church. And so you have to cover that stuff up. You have to keep it silent. People can't know what you're doing. If people find out what you're doing, they'll call you out. With the grooming gangs, everyone's covering it up, not just the people who are worried about the institution. You're talking about, again, police, government officials, everyone's covering it up. And it's been pointed out, again, when you have 7 or 8% of the Muslim population in an area who are actively doing this with the girls, that means everyone knows it, even the people who aren't participating. Everyone knows it. Everyone sees you with these young girls. Everyone sees you hanging out with these young girls, sees you going up into your house with these young girls, sees 8 of you going up into the house with this 12-year-old little white girl. They know it. They all know it. And it was fine to them. No one in that community was exposing it. It had to come from outside. And that's sick and evil. Who exposed stuff going on in the Catholic Church? People in the Catholic Church eventually. Right? What's up?
Anybody in Tel Aviv?
What's going on in Tel Aviv?
There are apparently, so I see footage and lots of reports coming in of massive explosions in Tel Aviv. Direct impact of hypersonic missiles or something else.
Again, guys,
above
the hypersonic missiles, guys, those are the ones, the Iron Dome was not meant to intercept things like that. The Iron Dome is primarily meant for short-range rocket fire and stuff like that. They have other systems in place, but if a ton of missiles and stuff, especially hypersonic, are coming at them, it is hard to stop. It's hard to stop.
If anybody is there in the region, in the vicinity, if anybody is in Tel Aviv and watching right now, if you're in a shelter or something, let us know how you're doing, what's going on. I see here people reporting that there are very loud booms, and I also see videos now coming in of several missiles actually landing in the middle of Tel Aviv. So, curious. Apparently one missile landed in Haifa in the north on a power plant. I think this is the worst impact as far as I can see so far in terms of missiles hitting Tel Aviv right now.
Yep, I'm also looking at the missiles hitting Tel Aviv. Now, notice they keep going for Tel Aviv. Why? It's a very modern city, very, very modern city, liberal city, densely populated. Fortunately, the plus side is they have tons and tons of shelters, and therefore casualties will never be nearly as bad as they would be if they didn't have tons and tons of shelters and safe rooms and things like that. But yeah, guys, Iran is going to lose this, but they are significantly more powerful and have way better weaponry than Hamas. So there will be significant loss of life in all of this. You're seeing this too, right, AP? That's a lot of rockets, man.
Yeah.
They're all over the place. And just so everyone knows what will happen as a result of this, Israel is monitoring. They will see where all those rockets were fired from, and they will go bomb all those places. That's what will happen. All right. Let's see. David and AP, don't pick on. Already saw that. Speak for yourself, AP. My crap is like roses. That's not true. AP, situation in Germany with Muslim migrants. What percentage of the population are opposed and what percentage of the population are sympathetic? Can Germany be saved? Why would you think AP knows what percentage of people think what in Germany? Because he lived there when he was a kid.
32% are for and 62% are against.
Now you have it. You could have looked up the numbers, but you chose to have AP make them up. Pakistan threatened to aid Iran versus Israel. Thought Pakistan threatened to aid Iran versus Israel. Thoughts? Pakistan doesn't want to get involved in this.
Yeah, I don't think they would want to get involved because they would be in big trouble if they did. And also, they have goats to molest, so I don't think they would be much of a use.
Ibn Masud reported Zut on Momo and Kier did nothing. That is true. Ibn Masud's like, let me tell you what they did to Muhammad. And Kier's like, well, let's just sweep this under the rug, isn't it? Oh, tell me, Robinson. Was that a pre-existing song that they applied Tommy to, or did they make up Tommy's own song? Anyone know? Like, is that some song? Because it was like the Allah, Allah, who the F is Allah, was actually a song about Alice that they adapted. So I don't know if, hey, Tommy, I don't know if that's already a song that they're replacing the word with Tommy. Let's see. The UK politicians and media is making it into a race thing in order to avoid the Islam route. Race tagging the victims and perpetrators. Yep. Mm-hmm. Charlie Peters, here we go. Charlie Peters, who did a lot to expose this story, also has criticism on Tommy's conduct in that trial. Brits are weird and draconian about this stuff. It is. And when it was happening, I pointed out how insane that sounds to Americans, that you wouldn't be allowed to report on a trial. And the justification, the rationale is, but you could somehow influence the jury or something like that. Like, suppose you... Again, Tommy wasn't doing any of this, but suppose Tommy went in there, heard the testimony, then went out and reported on it and exposed how a person's testimony was false and the person was lying. And so that could influence a jury if the jury's out there looking at stuff. In America, if you're worried about the jury being influenced, you keep the jury isolated from hearing this stuff. In other words, you don't stop reporters, you stop the jury from hearing reporters. But under no circumstances, it would be very, very rare to hear that you need to silence reporters, especially on something like this. And that's why it doesn't look like, oh, we're worried about someone possibly derailing this trial. It looks like we don't want people reporting because we don't want people to know about what's going on. And we don't want people getting enraged that this stuff is going on and that we were covering it up. And therefore, we're going to use this as an excuse to keep people quiet and keep people from reporting. It looks like you're just using this to justify silencing everyone and keeping people in the dark about this. And that's just sick, evil stuff. But we'll be hearing from Charlie Peters here in a second because we've got the Great Britain news clip. To be very clear, I think this is BS. What? You think what's BS? The only thing I can think of that you would say is BS and not be insane would be the inquiry. If you think it's all a show, I think it's a show. Yes. I think they're doing the bare minimum to pretend they're doing something. So if you meant that, then I would agree. I appreciate you two brothers. I'm glad someone does. No wonder UK sounds like a crap hole empire of lies. That is a good description of the UK, yes. Keir Starmer's evil. I agree. UK deep state evil. Can't believe what's happened to our nation. So sad. You guys do have a knack for getting some super crap leaders. Hi, AP and Dawa. Don't worry, guys. They're from the government, and they're here to help you. Yeah, I hope you can hear my eyes rolling. Ha ha. Have a blessed night. Yeah. The government's here to help. You should challenge Allah to Mubahala. Allah wouldn't dare face me in a Mubahala because he'd lose. Kier Starmer is only in it for things of this world, and I just pray that God has mercy on him because he doesn't deserve it in this world. That's true. Salutations, my brothers. Happy Father's Day. Yes, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. And on behalf of all of you, I would like to wish a happy Father's Day to myself and to AP because we have sired multiple boys. And I had a great deal of steak today. National Inquiry.
So I'm seeing the footage right now of somebody recording it directly from Tel Aviv in a civilian neighborhood, very close to impact. It's a very, very fast missile. Looks like, I don't know, it's said to be a hypersonic missile. We saw their launch. So I think half an hour ago or more, there was a video of a recorded of the missiles all together taking off in Iran, and it looked pretty scary. Now there is impact. Israel so far reported 4 impacts across Israel, which is honestly weak because they sent over dozens of them. But there is now one video which is somebody recording the sky, and missile lands not very far from them. Very loud, pretty scary, in civilian Tel Aviv neighborhood.
I would be guessing that Tel Aviv is on really, really, really high alert.
Yeah.
Like, I would guess that everyone is ready to bolt to shelters on the drop of a dime because they know what's
make no
going on.
mistake, this is directly. So they're trying to shower missiles. This
hang
is
on,
not.
hang on. AP, is this a
What?
This a civilian area?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to get at. So
Hang on. Wait. So this is not a military base?
nope.
Hang on. So they're not taking out like military commanders and stuff here, or they're not. It's not military targets at all.
This is exactly what is going on. This is the great hypocrisy here.
Oh, hang on. I'm just saying. So we know what's coming. We know there are going to be huge protests on college campuses around the world, protesting Iran for targeting civilians. They know what they're shooting at, and they're saying, let's kill all these civilians, just to be clear. So that's it. So we know that all these protests are about to happen, right?
Yeah, totally. So it's a missile. It's not debris. It's not interception. It's directly a missile. One of the missiles fired as a missile shower from Iran directly toward Israel. The missile directly, without interception, without anything, with full speed, brutally lands inside a civilian neighborhood. That's what's happening here. You know, all this time, they have complained about civilian deaths. They have complained about supposedly Israel attacking civilians and all that. Most of the impacts fired from Iran have been on civilian facilities, on civilian buildings, civilian neighborhoods. The deaths have been mostly civilian. This is exactly what these bastards are. They accuse Israel, but what they do is they directly target civilians, and they even brag about it. Go online, the very same people that cried forever about civilian casualties, they directly brag about setting Tel Aviv on fire, killing as many Israelis as possible, and so on. Which is why, I mean, seriously, don't care, don't give a damn about what people complain about when Israel acts.
And here's what's crazy, right? It's Israel does a really, really good job of protecting its people, right? That's why you have all of these shelters everywhere, bomb shelters, safe rooms, and so on, in various apartments and houses and so on. There's always a place to run quickly when the alarm goes off. So they do a good job of minimizing civilian casualties. And that somehow makes them bad because other groups like Hamas and so on deliberately maximize civilian casualties and then say, look at all the civilians who are dying here. Israel spends their money protecting their people and making sure their people are safe. And that makes them worse. That makes them worse than the guys who are deliberately maximizing their own civilian casualties. No, civilians, you don't come down in these shelters. That's for us soldiers. You stay up there and get bombed in retaliation for the rocket that we just fired. Sick, evil stuff. Well, I would continue about the grooming gangs, but AP's obviously listening to the latest news. Decided to Completely change the subject. Give us the latest, AP. I think he's...
Nothing, just still following direct updates from people here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can give us you can just give
So,
periodic,
no,
you can give
most people
periodic
are
updates.
just, most people in Israel are in shelters, or in the shelters of their apartment buildings, or in the shelters of their own apartments. Israel is on high alert. Tel Aviv is on high alert. So most people are told to stay inside, to stay close to home. If they need to go outside for anything, they receive immediate alerts of missiles coming in, and so on. So most of the people are in shelters. But right now, we just got one big impact, very loud, reported, I think, so far 10 injured. So it was very loud. It was in the middle of civilian things, but I don't think that the casualties are that big at the moment. We'll see.
I don't think the casualties are. I mean, there will be casualties. There'll be and injuries and so on. But again, Israel does a really, really good job of protecting their people. I mean, can you imagine that? I mean, like you can have rockets raining down on a city, and the casualties will be actually very few, just because the safety of their people is the highest priority. Interesting.
Yeah.
Imagine other groups like Hamas making the safety of civilians the top priority. National inquiry into how to bury the rape gang cover-up and throw our opponents under the bus. A cover-up for a cover-up. Yep, I hope it is not that, but I suspect it will be something like that. About to watch this video, but here we go. Here we go. D. Wood, in the Christian way, do you love Mike Winger? Yes, I've said repeatedly that I love Mike Winger because we are required to love our enemies. Understood, but trying to figure out if I should keep contacting you about it and what the changes were you had referenced earlier. Would appreciate the strategic insight in talks with Reform. Yeah, interesting. I'll respond to your email. I'll check it out. Mike Winger, the type of dude to rub his tummy and say, I could eat a horse when he's hungry. That does sound like Mike Winger. And Mike Winger, let's see. Nope. My favorite piece of propaganda from Pallywood was the one of the woman holding a fake skeleton. They've had some doozies. They've had some really, really great ones. All right, let's go ahead and let's check out this Charlie. I already forgot his name. Charlie. No. I said we'd look at the Guardian article. I don't know if we'll read the whole thing, but I really want to see. Oh, what was the vote? Okay, so 79% of people said that predict that the Guardian will say Asian when they're talking about the ethnicity of the grooming gangs. Because let's face it, I think it's a very low probability they're just going to say Muslims, right? You don't want to do that. But let's see what they got. So let me pull up this article. Here we go. Kier Starmer bows to pressure to launch new grooming gangs investigation. New probe and statutory public inquiry will be a means to get truth and justice. Home Secretary says, there you have it. The British government, the Labour Party, they're all about truth and justice. All right, now we're going to find out. What would be crazy is if they didn't, identify the grooming gangs at all. Maybe that's going to be unacceptable at this point. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, blah, blah, blah. Keir Starmer has launched a sweeping national operation to investigate grooming gangs and a statutory inquiry into institutional failure, marking a significant reversal after months of pressure on Labour to act. Months of pressure. Thank you, Elon. Tommy before you, but lots of credit to Elon for this pressure. The National Crime Agency, the UK's top investigative body, has been tasked with leading a coordinated national push to reopen historic group-based child sexual abuse cases and identify offenders who slipped through the cracks of previous police efforts. So they want to find more victims and identify more groomers and rapists. The new operation will also aim to put vile criminals behind bars and bring justice to victims whose cases were not previously progressed through the justice system, according to officials. More than 800 such cases have already been reopened. Whoa. You guys see that? More than 800 such cases have already been reopened since January. This means that cases they didn't pursue from back in the day, and they're like, we need to reopen these cases. Why? Because there was a lot of pressure on them. People were condemning them. It's pretty like horrifying that you have to basically force police to investigate gang rapists because otherwise they will refuse to do it. You have to force and shame them into doing anything about these cases. That's sick stuff. All right. More than 800 such cases have already been reopened since January. Officials say the aim now is to scale that up, combining forces across regional police, specialist exploitation teams, and national units such as Operation Hydrant. Still don't know who the perpetrators are. Let's see. The crackdown will also involve the Child Exploitation Task Force and the Tackling Organized Exploitation Program, working in partnership to strengthen local investigations and improve police handling of abuse cases. So that part is looking towards the future. We need to make sure that police know how to handle things better in the future. That is something that needs to be done. Again, we just don't have a lot of reason to trust the government at this point that they're serious about anything. What they're saying would be a good idea. It's just we don't trust you guys. The move comes alongside the formal launch of a statutory public inquiry with powers to compel witnesses and direct local investigations after a rapid review by Louise Casey concluded a new probe was necessary. The inquiry will scrutinize how institutions, including local councils, police forces, and elected officials, failed vulnerable girls across the UK with a specific focus on mishandled or ignored complaints. It will be able to compel local deep dive investigations into historical cases and demand answers where complaints of wrongdoing or cover-ups have been made under powers granted by the 2005 Inquiries Act. All this is good so far. I still have no clue who the perpetrators of these crimes were. And I don't know if they're Asians or more specifically Pakistanis. Let's see. Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, said survivors of the abuse had been ignored for too long and described the new inquiry as a means to get truth and justice. Not enough people listened to them then. That was wrong and unforgivable. True. We're changing that now. I hope you are. The shift follows months of public and political pressure. Labour had previously resisted backing a national inquiry. What? I thought you guys were the champions of the little girls. Arguing that years of investigations and reviews, including the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse led by Professor Alexis Jay, had already exposed serious failings. But Starmer appointed Lady Casey earlier this year to revisit the case for further action and has now accepted all of her recommendations. The inquiry will be chaired by a single figure. I guess a lot of this is going to come down to who's in charge of this. The inquiry will be chaired by a single figure and report independently with the power to compel testimony and access to institutional records. I seriously hope they get someone good. And it seems like they'll have to get someone good, because if they don't get someone good, if they don't get someone that people can trust, no one's going to trust it. They're going to think it's a big joke. Speaking on Sunday, the Chancellor Rachel Reeves defended the change of position. The Prime Minister wanted to assure himself that everything possible was being done, she told the BBC. This is about justice, not grandstanding. Yeah. It's because all these people are like so into helping the girls. That's why they did it for so long.
Right.
What is this, man? All right, I'll read a little bit more, but it doesn't look like they're identifying anybody who was abusing these girls. But the U-turn has not gone unnoticed. The Reform UK leader, Nigel Farage, has welcomed the move, but accused the Labour government of dragging its feet. The Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, called on Starmer to apologise for what she described as 6 wasted months. The government had come under growing pressure to shift its stance after senior Conservatives, Farage campaigners, some victims' families, and even Elon Musk said only a full statutory inquiry could deliver accountability. Okay. Is there anything else? Who did this? Who was grooming these girls? You seriously did they did the entire... Okay, guys, I should have had a third option. Namely, they won't give any indication. They won't say Asians or Pakistanis or anything, unless I somehow missed it. But, all right, guys, we have no idea. It's just one of life's great mysteries. It's one of life's great mysteries who was abusing these girls. We'll have no way of knowing. Definitely not going to see it from The Guardian. Definitely not going to see it from The Guardian. The Guardian will not tell us who's responsible for what's going on with these girls. AP, you got any updates, man? You got any updates on what's going on? Or should I proceed?
Nobody knows. Go ahead. Continue.
No updates?
Continue.
All right, so next thing we're going to check out the video by Great Britain News, which has always seemed a bit far right to me. So I don't even know if I want to check it out, but the guy there, Charlie for Great Britain News, is someone that people have been thanking for making this happen. So he played some role. I'm not familiar with him, but we're going to get to know him. So that's good. The Seal of the Prophet said, arguably, we prolonged the war greatly because of sending aid. What's the line between aid and supplying your enemy? So you're saying you could have ended the war already if you'd starved the population? Again, I see the point. I don't think that's even if we said, who cares if you starve the population? We don't care about all those people. We're fine with all those people dying, all the kids and everything. Hey, that's on their parents. If they all die, if all the kids die, that's on them. We starve them all. Do you think that's in Israel's best interest? In other words, do you think shortening the war... Put it this way. You don't even need to talk about starving them. You could have just bombed the entire place down to rubble and killed everybody. You could have... Israel has the firepower to completely level the entire place and kill every living person there. And then to go down in the tunnels and make sure you kill it. Would that have been in Israel's best interest? The war would be over. The war would be... Is that the only concern? How long the war is going on? Guys, we're saying, we're looking into the outside. We're seeing what's going on with people condemning you and so on. We're saying, is it a good idea if you just starved a population to death or killed them all? Well, you shorten the war. Okay, is that all you care about? Shortening the war. Because you could have ended the war in 2 days with no problem. You could have ended it in 2 days. It could have been over long time ago. Would that have been in your best interest? Again, even if you don't care about how many civilians die and so on. Would that have been in your best interest? Why are we having this conversation? I don't think that would be good for you. Knows too much says, kind of limited my ability to reply here. If they surrender and help take down Hamas, instead of shielding and aiding them, they will not starve. What do you mean? If you cut off food, they're going to starve. What do you mean? If you cut off food, if no food goes in, they're going to starve. Hamas is the ones that are not going to starve. What are you even talking about?
I guess there's one thing that I wouldn't blame Israel for doing one thing, which is to say, okay, we don't care. From now on, nothing is going in until the population rises up against Hamas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think it would, because Hamas would just start gunning people down. It's the same thing we were just talking about. A bunch of people, it's hard for a ton of people to rise up at once because it has to start with certain people. And if the people that it starts with all get instantly shot down and killed, yeah, I don't know.
Bang, bang. The one thing that I think about for quite often, even nowadays, is... Israel is expected to basically try and make sure that the entire population of Gaza is safe. But so imagine this: you have a population that elects a terrorist organization, that keeps a terrorist organization at their head
Evil.
that lets this terrorist organization run free, that lets this terrorist organization commit all kinds of acts of terrorism, does nothing to oppose this terrorist organization, and then expects Israel to come in and make sure that they are kept safe. I mean, Israel doesn't have the responsibility to keep these people safe if they themselves cannot do anything about it. If they themselves didn't do anything about it. That said, I'm still kind of conflicted on how to directly treat the population.
Yeah. Again, it comes down to everything we've already said, that there are people there, even if they're a minority, there are people there who didn't want any part of this. Should you kill all of them too, or starve all of them too, even though they didn't want any of this? Do you do that? In other words, in order to shorten a war and finish it, do you kill even people who would be on your side? Do you do that? So that's one question. Two, again, you have babies and toddlers who have never had any decision in any of this. Do you also go after them or have them starve because of this? And in addition to all that, if you didn't care about any of that, if you don't care how many civilians, kids, whatever die, if you didn't care about any of that, is it in your best interest to starve a population to shorten a war? Or is it better for you to always have the moral high ground, even though people aren't going to acknowledge that you have the moral? Here, let me put it this way. There are people who will never acknowledge that Israel has the moral high ground, but there are tons of people who do. You getting this? So there are the groypers and everything. It doesn't matter what Israel does. Israel will always be regarded as the ones who are in the wrong on all of this. There are people like that. Guess what? Those aren't the only people. There are other people who are looking at this going, my goodness, look at how much better Israel is than these Hamas terrorists and so on. Israel's like raining leaflets. Does Israel have an obligation to rain leaflets down on an area before attacking it? No, they do it. And that makes it clear that they're better people than the ones that they're fighting against. I don't think you want to lose that because, again, even though there are people who will never be on Israel's side, there are people who are on Israel's side specifically because they're the better people. They're the civilized ones. They're behaving better than these other guys. These guys are going around, they just want to rape and kill everyone and kill babies and so on. Israel does everything they can to make this stuff not happen. And you would lose those people. If you start like starving entire populations, you're going to lose. You would lose everyone except for the people who say, you know what, they're just evil. You need to wipe them all out. Those are the only people you'd still have on your side. But again, I don't think I don't think any of that's in the best interest of Israel itself. So I don't know how much clearer I can make my position. So I don't know why you'd keep asking about it. The whole grooming gang story sounds so similar to what's happening in schools in Buffalo after the Unsubscribe podcast exposed a child abuse cover-up. Really? In Buffalo? Mike Winger is far right. That was gold. That's true. Far right extremist. Are stereotypes actually racist, or are they just pattern recognition? Apparently, I'm really good at pattern recognition. You little racist. No, you can recognize patterns and so on. Here's the thing, though. It's difficult to ascribe the pattern to the race and not just to like a culture. Like, let me put it this way. On Twitter, sometimes I'll see like people saying, "Look," and it'll be like some black people fighting in like a Walmart and stuff, and they'll say, "Look, this is what black people do," and I'm thinking it kind of looks exactly like what white people do back home in hillbilly West Virginia, where I'm from. It kind of looks exactly so. In other words, I think some of these issues can be like more cultural and so on. So anyway, how dare you, sirs? The correct name is not Pakistani grooming gangs. The proper name is Al-Zut Muhammad lover gangs. Yeah, I wish it'd be nice if these guys just did this stuff to themselves and not to 12-year-old girls. The UK is, if Muhammad were around, he would say, guys, don't do it to the little girls, just do it to me. And he'd take one for the children. The UK is in disbelief. Cops pulling up to cars with a 12-year-old and 40-year-old performing an act, and the cop drives off. It's all beyond horrific. Yeah, tons of stories like that. We've heard lots of them are becoming familiar with the police show up and there's 6 guys with a girl and they'll arrest the girl because she's drunk when they're the ones who got her drunk. It's like, and they're in there, raping her and so on. Anyway, sick stuff, sick, evil stuff. Guess what? There are reports on that somewhere. Stuff gets buried, but there's information exposing who was involved in that situation. In other words, if a police officer arrested that girl for being drunk in that house with 5 or 6 Pakistani dudes, there's a record of that police officer who should not be a police officer. Momo ridden by Zut. This is my jihad. What's yours? I might need to steal that. Getting banged by Al Zut, that's my jihad. It is a struggle, left him in pain. I want Muhammad Hijab update. I have no stamina for the internet and rely you both there, lol. Hope you both are well and staying safe. Yeah, I'm not sure about a Muhammad Hijab update, but we'll have a Ali Dawa update lately because Behind Veils is posting some new videos. They took a little time off, but they kept investigating apparently. Knows too much says the aid went to Hamas for a long time and cost the lives of people and prolonged the war. Hey, knows too much. You asked about should the population be starved. That's what we responded. I didn't say be stupid about delivering the aid so that Hamas gets it. Right?
Yep.
I agree with you on that. Hamas should not get the aid. But guess what? That's what Israel's been doing. Those are the steps they've been taking recently. Right? You say aid going to 100% innocent people is easier said than done. That's true. In fact, you can't do it because even if you're giving aid to a random citizen who's standing in line waiting for food, that person may be pure evil and wants you dead. All that is true. But guess what? Some of the people standing in line for aid are going to be... Dude, I don't know what you're arguing with us with. Dude, just say it. Exterminate the entire population. Is that what you want to say? I disagree. What else do you want me to say? I disagree. Starving the entire population to death. I disagree. I think that you should be concerned about starving babies to death. I think you should be concerned about how that would make you look and how that would turn whatever the percentage of people who are against you right now, it would be almost everyone against you. I don't see why you would want to be in that situation just to shorten things by a couple months. I don't know why. If you think that's a good idea, I can't change your mind. But if you want the entire world united against Israel to destroy it, if you want every ally Israel has to say, you know what, we can't be your allies anymore. You're starving babies to death deliberately, intentionally. You're blocking aid trucks, even aid trucks from other countries that are just trying to feed people. We're going to, what are other nations going to say? We can't be on your side anymore. If you want Israel alone and isolate an entire world that hates them, by all means do this. I think this is ridiculous. If you want to just wipe out and starve the entire population. This does not help you. So why would you want to do something that destroys yourself? I don't get it. If that makes sense to you, I don't know how. With that said, I agree. But Israel's taking steps to. It's like you're saying if you have to starve 1,000 people to make sure that you don't accidentally feed an evil person, then starve the 1,000 people. Dude, that seems like the reverse of most people's thinking, right? That's like saying you should presume everyone guilty until proven innocent. Why? Because you don't want someone accidentally getting off of something that they're guilty of, and therefore it's better to condemn a bunch of innocent people in court. See, I'm talking about like the U.S. presumption of innocent until proven guilty. The point of that is it's better for some guilty people to get away with it than it is to convict an innocent person. And so we're going to presume innocent until we actually have proof here. But that's a presumption that's meant for the idea that you don't want to accidentally harm people who don't deserve it, right? Are there people in Palestine who don't deserve it? Yes.
Where? In what?
Where? In Gaza. Are there people in Gaza who don't deserve death? Yes, I think there are. So, anyway, I don't see much point in arguing anymore. Knows too much. I see the point. I see the point. I can actually see the wisdom in saying, you know what, we don't need to carry this on. Let's just level the entire place and exterminate the entire. I can see, hey, let's just skip to the end and get it over with, like pulling off a Band-Aid. I don't think that's one. I don't think it's the right thing to do. And two, I think that would be disastrous for you. I think that would be disastrous for Israel, like as in really, really bad, as an entire world turning their backs on you and wanting you destroyed.
So here's the funny thing. According to Israeli reports, including Israel Radar and other, even Haaretz and other sources, when the whole thing started, when the whole war, when Israel first started this operation currently on Iran, it says the death toll in Israel remains well below estimates. The worst case scenario is forecasting 800 to 4,000 Israeli fatalities in the conflict. So here's the thing. Just to switch it back again to the strikes that are happening right now between Israel and Iran. Apparently, the Israeli army and government were estimating that with the current operation that they are starting to strike down the Iranian military and nuclear facilities, the reactions, the retaliations from Iran could result in worst case 800 to 4,000 Israeli fatalities. But they concluded that that it has to be done anyway because the future would be worse. And this is a preemptive strike. So Israel is currently expecting fatalities on their own side, but apparently, according to reports, the fatalities are actually much lower than Israel actually expected or assessed. So Iran is not doing a terribly good job.
Now let's check out this. Deborah says, I cannot agree with David on this. So Deborah, would you agree that let's suppose 60% of Gaza wants Israel wiped off the map, and keep in mind the numbers are worse than this because even the people who don't support Hamas are pretty commonly anti-Israel. But so Hamas, let's say the entire population of Gaza doesn't think Israel should exist. Would it be a good idea for Israel to just like nuke the entire place?
Powerful.
I'll wait for your answer. Keep in mind, that would instantly end the problem with Gaza. Would it be a good idea for Israel to nuke the entire place, thus destroying their enemies? Would that be a good idea?
Powerful. Powerful.
What? I'm waiting for Deborah.
Powerful.
Would it be a good idea? It's a simple question, yes or no. Would it be a good idea for Israel to just nuke them? Or if you want to say, no, you should never nuke, you shouldn't use nukes because it wouldn't be a good idea to let people know you have nukes or this might cause problems. Let's suppose you just regular bombs, bomb the entire population down to nothing. Men, women, children, everyone, babies, everyone.
Beef.
I'm interested, like, because if you're saying like it's okay to starve the entire population, I would rather die by being bombed than being starved to death, right? So if you're going to skip to the end, I think it would be better to bomb a population than to starve a population to death. So what do you think? If you can't agree with me, I mean, I think I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what's in the best interest of Israel? Is it a good idea? If you know that there are people who are innocent, guess what there are? Again, there are babies. There are babies there. There are little kids who've never made one decision, who have no idea what to think about Israel and so on. Do you say, in order to get rid of your enemies, you exterminate the entire population? So to put it differently, if you think that a population is bad for you, is it a good idea to, well, let's say round them up in camps. Let's say round them up in camps and starve them to death. Put them in, gas them, put them into ovens. Would that be a good idea? They're bad, right? I'm not seeing an answer.
You said Nazi. You said Nazi.
I'm not seeing an answer. Guys, I'm wondering where you draw the line. So I'm wondering where you draw the line. And I've even explained it in different ways. Again, even if you didn't care about killing babies or something like this, just for like what's going on in the world, would you want to be the group that like starved an entire population to death or exterminated an entire population or something like that? Does anyone see the answer? I'm not seeing. I think it's good to have the moral high ground for people who pay attention to who has the moral high ground. For people who are looking at this going, we got two sides here. I see one is obviously pure evil. And I see the other side doing everything they can to avoid being evil. Everything they can. I think you lose that if you just say, you know what, starve them all to death. I don't care. I'm still looking. Oh, Deborah said, how many times do I have to respond? Well, I didn't see her respond. Where is it?
How many times does she have to respond, man?
I don't see her response.
What's wrong with you?
Do you see her response?
No.
She's saying, how many times do I have to respond? I see 0 responses.
How many times does she have to respond? What's wrong with you, man?
Okay. The previous one I see is Haaretz is hardly worth reading. It's like Al Jazeera just in Hebrew.
That's true. That is true.
It.
No, but I brought up Al Jazeera because to say that even they report on these assessments. Different topic, not unrelated to what you said.
Guys, so Deborah's apparently saying she's responded multiple times. I can't see him. Anyone? She's saying she's responded multiple times. I've asked a simple question. Should you wipe them? Should you just exterminate the entire population, round them up into camps, starve them to death, work them to death, and then stick them in ovens? Is that a good idea? Or not even is it a good idea? Is it the best thing to do in this situation? Because keep in mind, me and AP we're in favor of some pretty extreme methods of dealing with this situation. Like we're fine when people said, "Hey, let's just give them, let's get an island in Indonesia and move the entire population." We're like, if you can make it work, you got to do something. You can't just live like this forever. So we're saying, okay. So Deborah says YouTube is deleting my response. So so what were you actually advocating, like exterminating entire populations, and YouTube deleted it?
we can't know that. We don't know that.
Okay, so all right, we don't know how Deborah answered because whatever answer she gave was so harsh that YouTube was deleting it. All right, that's interesting. And we had Alex saying, David, no one's under an obligation to feed. That's not what we're talking about, man. I don't know. I don't know what to do, guys. Are people even listening to anything we say? By the way, maybe we'll do this as a poll. How do I get rid of the old poll? Okay, end poll. 76% said the Guardian would say Asians. You were all wrong because they didn't say anything. They gave no indication on who the perpetrators were. Okay.
Fully powerful. So was everybody wrong?
Everyone was wrong.
Based.
Would it be a good idea for Israel to exterminate every man, woman, and child, and baby in Gaza? Would it be a good idea for Israel to exterminate every man, woman, child, and baby in Gaza? All right. Going to find out where people are at here. Keep in mind, I'm not saying that's what people said. I'm saying I'm trying to find out where the line is, because if starving an entire population to death is the right thing to do, then I don't know why just completely exterminate them, rounding them up, putting them in camps and killing them would be bad. Okay, so 93% said no, 92% said no. It's fluctuating between 92 and 93, but tons of people haven't voted. Might shift, might be in the 80s.
Oh, wait, I need to vote. Where's our watch page? No, I need to vote. My vote counts 95%, by the way. So.
Oh, wait, Pam Jones says, Deborah just said she didn't agree with David. I know she doesn't agree with me. I'm trying to find out where she would draw the line. Where do you draw the line? Guys, it's very easy to say, here's my enemy over here. I really don't like my enemy. I think my enemy is an ongoing problem that I have to do something about. Therefore, exterminate the entire population. Normally, we look back on people like that and say they're pure evil. But we have people here saying, well, no, it's actually a good idea in certain circumstances if the people you're dealing with are the people of Gaza. So apparently about 12% think that it would be a good idea for Israel to exterminate every man, woman, and child. And baby in Gaza. Keep in mind, you always do have troll voters. I hear it every time. They're like, "Oh, I voted for the opposite one just to mess with you," and stuff like that. But some of those, definitely some of those will be sincere. And I see why. Hey, do we want to deal with this problem forever and just keep dealing with it forever? Or do we want to put an end to it? Okay, how do we put an end to it? Guess what, guys? You can put an end to it without mass murdering the entire population. You can. You can do it. You can deal with the situation.
How?
They're kind of doing it right now. In other words, the one thing you wanted to do, you didn't want Hamas getting the aid. So what do? You make it so that the aid is delivered in a certain way where Hamas isn't getting it. So that was always recognized as a problem. You send your big truckload of aid to Gaza, who takes it? Hamas does. And then what does Hamas do with it? They sell it, so they get richer. And they use that to fund terrorism and so on. Okay, that's a really, really bad idea. What do? Well, you take control of an area and have people show up to get their food. And that way, Hamas doesn't get it. So you take steps like that. Anyway, so now we're at 13%. 13% say it would be a good idea for Israel to exterminate every man, woman, and child, and every man, woman, child, and baby in Gaza. Hang on. People are bringing up Rebecca. They're saying even smart guys like AP and D Wood don't get it. Don't get what? What don't we get? What did Rebecca say?
Who said that?
Rebecca. It says something that we don't get. We're not getting something. Hurry up, man. What did Rebecca say?
I don't know why we're talking about this, honestly.
What? Yeah, we came here to talk about grooming gangs, but people want to argue that Israel should starve the population until they hand the hostages over and so on, which I understand that reasoning, right? And at the beginning, I might have said, at the beginning of the war, I might have said, you're not getting any.
Wait a minute. We're just talking about this because Knows Too Much brought up the whole question of food and Gazans. It's all his fault. Knows Too Much brought up this whole discussion. It's all his fault. This is why we're talking about this.
Yeah, I know. But there are a bunch of people who agreed with him and then complained that we're saying, hey, even if you have a minority who don't agree with what the leaders are doing, and if you have people who had nothing to do with it, like babies, then you should not exterminate them.
Well, I don't really care. I mean, nobody's being exterminated. Nobody's being starved. So whether we
they're saying that is the correct approach. That is the correct approach.
I agree with what Israel is doing so far.
I agree with what they're doing as well. I agree with what they're being careful, but they're getting their job done. They're getting their job done, and they're being careful. And I can say for people who are outside Israel who see, again, you have this part of the world. It doesn't matter what Israel does. They're going to hate you no matter what you do. You could be the greatest people on the planet all day, every day, and do nothing but good. They will hate you anyway, right? Then you have people who are looking at this, and I remember this. I remember the ads in New York. It was saying, "Hey, in any battle between the civilized and the savage, support the civilized." I remember that. There was Pamela Geller was posting those kinds of things and so on. You have the clear moral high ground for people who are thinking realistically about things. There are people who are looking at this going, Israel's doing everything it can to minimize civilian casualties. The other side's doing everything they can to maximize civilian casualties. That side is clearly evil. This side is clearly good. And so who am I going to support? I'm going to support the good guys. I'm saying you lose that with the world if you say, you know what? Wipe out the entire population. you've lost the moral high. It wouldn't be a situation. It wouldn't be, oh, but look at what these evil people did. Look at what this terrorist organization did. It wouldn't be that. It would be, you're not just taking out the terrorists. You're taking out all the babies and so on. And so if you're going to say, well, that's it's worth it. Again, we're on the outside. We interact with the people who are condemning Israel every single day. And we see the people who are on the side of Israel because Israel is doing everything it can to minimize civilian casualties and so on. If you suddenly switch that and lose that, you're losing a ton of people. You're losing a ton of people. And if you don't care, well, I mean, guess what? You can do anything you want. If you don't care about people's perspective, you don't care about the people, the people there, you can round up everyone. You can round up the entire population. You have the power. You can round up the entire population, wipe them all out. Is that a good idea? I don't see it.
Rebecca think it's a good idea? Currently, the whole situation is a little bit is very emotional for both Israelis and for the other side. It is extremely highly emotional. The Israelis had the largest, biggest attack ever to happen was carried out on their own soil. Their own population was slaughtered, taken hostage. Part of it is still taken hostage. And in the midst of this, they are actually continuously told by the world to somehow, drop everything they do, drop all their priorities, and think about the well-being of the Gazans. So I can understand if the Israeli at this point thinks, I'm sorry, I don't give a crap about the Gazans. And I can also understand that this pushes people emotionally to such a level where they say, in fact, we should not only not care about what the Gazans experience, we should also make it worse for them until they surrender everything. So there are very, very big emotions at play here. It's the middle of war. So I don't think there's much use to actually discussing what needs to be done or what should be done. I think Israel has a lot of people in charge who know what needs to be done. And so far they have been doing what needs to be done. You may have seen that over the last 1 year or 1.5 years, the daily number of people dying has decreased dramatically in Gaza because Israel made sure to isolate the population and to continue the fighting in such a way. So I would say that Israelis shouldn't concern themselves too much with what happens to the Gazans. They should just concern themselves with supporting what their government is doing right now, and not listen to what the world says, honestly.
Yeah, and there could be exceptions as far as specific things. I think Israel has been doing things as right as they can. Again, you can't hold people to an impossible standard where everything is always going to turn out perfectly and so on. But in terms of going after the terrorists and crippling the terrorists and minimizing support for the terrorists and ultimately working towards a future where something serious is done that ends this in the future and so on, without crossing lines that can't be uncrossed and completely destroying your ability to have the moral high ground and so on. I think they're right on the money. And with that said, extremely difficult situations to deal with. Like it sounds kind of insane. Hey, we're going to keep letting trucks of aid go to people who want us wiped out. That sounds insane. You're right. That's not normal. It's not a normal situation. You've got a group that is doing everything they can to get their own population wiped out just to make you look bad. And guess what? If the goal of your enemy is to make you look bad in the global population, probably want to make sure you don't look bad.
Yeah.
Unless you absolutely have to, but that's kind of what they want, right? Anyway, is Hamas all butthurt when you drop a bomb and it kills some babies? No, they were trying to get you to do that. They're trying to get you to do that. So
what Israelis should not care about public perception at this point.
What's that?
Israel should not really care much about public perception at this point, I would say, because you see what the public perception is. You see how Israel is being depicted right now as the aggressor in the whole
No. You didn't hear what I said earlier. I said there is a portion that they don't care. They're always going to be against you. There are a lot of people who are on the side of Israel specifically because they look at Israel as the good guys. And so for those, I'm saying those people, those people are actually looking at this situation realistically and saying, these guys want to completely wipe out the entire population. The Israeli side doesn't want to wipe out that entire population. Those are the good guys. Okay, there are people who are thinking about this clearly, and they're right. Do you want to be the side that wipes out the other population, right? Because then you're no longer the good guys in people's minds. So anyway, and there would be people who said, nope, it's messed up, but it's entirely justified because that side wants you exterminated. Sometimes you just gotta wipe out an entire population or something like that. That would be I think that would be a minority of the world population. In other words, I think you would lose the support of every nation on the planet, whether you liked it or not. And I do not think that's good for long-term bad.
By the way, there are currently incoming reports that that Khamenei might be dead, but I think it's just hearsay at this moment. So.
I've seen that too. I saw that they struck Khamenei's bunker, but I haven't seen it anywhere apart from someone saying it.
Yeah.
Okay. Take a couple more and then we'll watch this last video clip. For all your opinion on these topics is less important than becoming burdened and learned children of God and evangelizing all those involved in suffering that clearly need to know Jesus' love. What are you saying? You're saying we shouldn't be talking about the grooming gang scandal and so on because we could be talking about other things? I don't think that's an either or situation. I think people do need to spend time exposing the grooming gang situation. I think it's extremely dangerous to not talk about that stuff. If an enemy would starve before surrender, it's on him. What? The baby? A baby enemy? There are people who don't get to make those choices, dude. There are people who don't get to make that choice. And you'd be imposing a choice on them. I thank Almighty God for April 19th, 1975. Don't fire unless fired upon, but if they mean to have war, then let it begin here. Let's see. Average pro-Palestinian, raspy voice. The Jews planned World War II. Hitler was a Zionist. That's what they do. Yeah. And those are the people's opinion that you shouldn't care about much. Other people's opinion you should care about. Iran cries out in pain as it strikes you. Yes, they do. That's pretty common. Happy birthday to Allah. Hope he took his wife Alat and his son Al-Quran out somewhere special. It's the mother of the books. Thank you, Clive. Cowhead thrown at Hindu temple in Assam, India. Oh, did that happen? You hear this, AP? Apparently some jihadis tossed a cow head into a Hindu temple. I watched your McDonald's video. Next time you should try McMohammed's. I hear they're not Islamophobes and have the McMuta. Keep up the good work. Yep, we're still wondering if we went to the UK. If we went to the UK and ordered a McMuta, if they know what we're talking about, they probably would. Growing up...
Well, imagine you try to pull a prank at a McDonald's in the UK. I want to make muta.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, coming right away.
Coming right away, mate. We've got the shakeout to do it. Yeah, we'll go to them on Zoom. Go bang around a little bit. Growing up as a German Muslim, how was the Holocaust spoken about in the German Muslim community? What was the sentiment about? You guys even talk about that stuff?
Honestly, I would be. There was very little talk about it. Generally among Muslims, generally, it was very mixed. So there is this one aspect which is that is a bad thing, but the other aspect is also among Muslims that there is a lot of they probably deserved it. They probably got what they asked for. They probably get it and all that. So there's a lot of praise, but also a lot of learned. So people are taught that it is evil, that it is bad, but there's also a lot of justification for it that comes from the Islamic culture. So it is mixed.
Well, hello. Since they woke us up, good to see you both. Oh yeah.
Stay
rockets.
safe.
Knows too much. To be clear, children are always innocent, but if their Palestinian parents refuse to surrender and cause them to die, their death is on them. Again, not that easy. Hey, I'm going to go surrender. You're going to get shot in the freaking head by Hamas. It's not that simple, dude. It's just not.
Well, I do think that at some point there's not really much that you can do for the children that die on the other side necessarily. I think that at some point, I mean, it is a very difficult situation, right? You have the terrorists firing at you and basically keeping their own population as hostages, and they keep firing at you and keep firing at you, and you are pushed to your last resort, where you have to push a button and kill a lot of innocent people, including children and babies. Otherwise, your children and babies will be killed. Do you want to do it?
Yeah. Knows too much. This is very simple. Does Hamas seriously think they're going to march into Israel and take over Israel? No. So they're playing a longer game where their goal is to marginalize Israel and get the world to turn against Israel. How are they doing that? By launching attack after attack and getting the retaliation, then going, look what they're doing to us. Right? That's their method. That is their overarching method. What is their main goal? Make Israel look bad. That's their main goal. The main fundamental goal, make Israel look like the bad guys here. That's it. That's their number one goal. And they would sacrifice their entire population in order to achieve that goal of making you look bad. What are you here saying? You're here saying, give Hamas exactly what they want and help them achieve their number one overarching goal. That's what you're saying. That's the big takeaway here. Hamas wants to do anything in its power, up to and including sacrificing the entire population just to make Israel look like the bad guys, by making them look like the ones that, like, they killed us all. And what are you saying? Kill them all. So you're saying do what Hamas wants, right? That's what. Matter of fact, every comment I read from you now, I'm just going to say, okay, knows too much says do what Hamas wants. You and Hamas are in agreement on what you want Israel to do. You and Hamas are in total agreement on what you want Israel to do. And you want the same global reaction that Hamas wants. That's all I'm hearing from you right now. You want the same thing. You want it for different reasons. They want it because they think this would be the ultimate way to bring you down over time, eventually. And you want it just, hey, well, these guys are evil and we need to do something about it quick and not take all this time. Okay, I can't stop you for wanting the exact same thing Hamas wants. Four completely different reasons, but same thing. They want you to kill they would love it if you killed the entire population. You're saying, why not do it? All right. Merchant says, as I am preparing for the MRCOG exam, came to know that in NHS, age of consent is 16 years. But for those between 13, 14, 15, sex can be consensual. Only for girls below 12, it will be a rape crime. Groomers are taking or took advantage of this. Well, there were girls at lower ages and so on. But yeah, they tend to target 12 and 13. So I don't know if that was deliberate or if that's just what they're kind of attracted to most. They always playing the victim card, especially for the world to see. I don't even know who you're talking about. Because everyone's playing the victim card. Hamas plays the victim card. Iran's playing the victim card. The groomers are playing the victim card. That's just become the main method. Do something horrible, and then when people respond to you, they're attacking you and you're the victim. Cheryl says, there are still hostages, hopefully still alive, not to mention all the other good reasons you guys have mentioned. Yeah. No, I mean, keep in mind, I do understand look, until you guys hand over the hostages, we will make your lives absolutely miserable day in, day out, and we will do anything it takes to, I get that. I get that. That's the thing. You can have 10 different positions and say, here's a benefit to this position. Here's a benefit to that. All those positions have downsides as well. And there's definitely a downside to taking massively extreme measures. Muhammad versus 100 al-Zut. Yeah, that should be in Jubilee. Muhammad surrounded. That's the thing. I can't imagine a Muslim going to Jubilee just because there are going to be too many al-Zut jokes. Aid for the Gazans is good PR. I'm not fond of the Gazans, but I can understand Israel's efforts from a practical perspective. And again, that could be two things. That could be one, hey, I sincerely want to help I sincerely want to help the people there because you have people who didn't want anything to do with this. And I want to help any kids or babies who had nothing to do with this. I want any people who are actually against Hamas. I want to make sure, I don't want to starve them, but also any people who are on the side of Hamas, but, you know, we want to at least give them a chance to change their minds over time.
I'm not sure if you're aware.
So there's that, but then there's also the global perspective thing. What's up?
I'm not sure if you're aware, but the whole one Muhammad versus 100 al-Zuts is also a reference to this recent thought experiment that became popular, which is
with the gorilla thing.
100 men versus one gorilla.
Yeah,
I think it was a reference to that.
And didn't we discuss at some point? We said it had to be kind of like one at a time because it was 100 guys. I think 100 guys could beat a gorilla.
Yeah. We talked about that. That's true.
Yeah. Let's see. Savako. Let's see. Either you two have an ultra method to beat lust.
Oh yeah, totally. I don't do any sins. I don't do any bad things. I don't have any passions at all. I've defeated all of them like 100%. Trust me.
Hey, your mic's sounding weird, man. Sounding splotchy. What's up with that?
What? Really?
Yeah.
How about now?
No, now it's better. What'd you do?
That's weird. I was playing some audio in the background.
Oh. Well. Ultra method of beating lust. No, get married and have a lot of sex. It's a good idea. That helps. Apart from that, always think. If you're thinking about, I don't know if you're talking about a person or porn or something like that, but always think, hey, these are people who are created in the image of God, and the world and its systems always try to degrade the image of God. So when you see like one of these, if you see people degrading themselves in various ways and so on from being accurate reflections of the image of God, then you should be aware of that. And you don't want to be one who is helping to degrade people who are created in the image of God.
Wallahi, that's true.
Working moms of UK kids are to be blamed partially.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. Lots of the girls are actually from like, they're in like homes and things like that. It would totally depend. If you know what's going on, or you have any clue what's going on, or you're just being a really bad mom, yes. But I don't know how much that was the situation. And I don't know why you'd bring that up. Shame on the moms! Guys, the casino is holding my 7K. Please pray for me. I worked hard for those winnings yesterday watching UFC. Not based. Don't you win? You win some money on a UFC bet and they're not giving you your money. Even when they're sending aid, Israel's already getting slandered. Imagine if they just stopped sending aid. Yeah, I mean, that is because, guys, keep in mind we're two of the guys who keep defending Israel through all this, and we know how insanely obsessed people are with attacking Israel and how much they hate Jews and so on. So, and there are lots of people. It doesn't matter what Israel does. I pointed that out. You don't want to give more people any sort of justification.
I mean, I have a lot of conflict about that. I just find myself in a new state of mind and try to find more, try to have more compassion for the other side and try to find more peaceful solutions. That said, Israel is really being put on a completely different set of standards than
completely different standards
in any other country. So if we were talking about any other conflict here, if any other nation endured what Israel has endured so far by these people, nobody would give a crap about.
If this were the United States having to put up with this from Mexico, they would not put up with it for 5 seconds.
We would be blasting the crap out of those.
We would. Israel is just held to a completely different standard from everyone else. Jews are held to a completely different standard from everyone else. That's all true.
Bigly.
Most Israelis recognize that we don't want to inflict collective punishment on the population is because it is corruptive to our society, not only because how it looks. Yeah, that's why I repeatedly said things in two ways. One, here, what is the actual right thing to do? And two, what's the global perception? What's the global perception? And that's an additional one as far as it's corruptive. You don't want someone else to transform you into the kind of people who just say, you know what, let's just completely exterminate all our enemies, men, women, and children. You don't want to let people turn you into that because you kind of don't come back from that. Right? In other words, once you become the sort of people who say, you know what, these guys don't like us and they want to get us. So you know what, let's get them first and just exterminate their entire population. You kind of don't come back from that. In other words, there will be other people who mess with you. What do? Just keep wiping out. Just keep wiping everyone out.
Look at this comment. If you think Israel are the victims and not in total control of the narrative, then you're missing a trick. Yeah, one of these geniuses.
Really? The narrative? Absolutely. Israel completely controls the narrative? Because all I ever hear is Israel evil, Jews bad. That's what I hear 24 hours a day.
Oh, you don't understand. Actually, Israel is even in control of that. They're using that in order to depict themselves as victims of the narrative so that they can later on control the narrative even more bigly. Big brain. Peach Buns, shut up. Shut up. You are one of the dumbest people out there, probably, in this chat right now, as far as I can see. And you think that you are one of the smartest. This whole conspiracy-brained narrative. When does it get old? This sounded smart to dumb people in the early 2000s. We are still doing this? Stop with the drugs. And stop using the internet. Go read a book. I don't know.
Did AP get a new gaming PC? Let's play Fortnite, AP. No one wants to play Fortnite. That from 8 years ago.
I did indeed get a gaming PC.
Pretty nerdy.
Just so I can have a massively, wonderfully powerful PC, but I'm not going to play Fortnite.
Adam says, the testing worked. Knows too much, said never advocated for it. That's a straw man. I don't know what you're talking about. I took what you said. What you were advocating is cutting off, keep in mind, if you said cutting off all aid, I'm not even talking about, I don't think Israel's under any obligation or even should be sending aid or something like that as far as them gathering food and sending it. As far as stopping aid trucks, as far as closing off all the gates and stuff and making sure there's no food entering. I think that's what you're saying. No food entering, no food, water, anything else entering through Israel. I think that's what you're saying. And then saying, hey, now you guys decide, do you want to starve and die or surrender? And what I'm saying is, if you're going to have people who are just letting kids starve to death, you say that's on them. That's on them. Well, yeah, it is. But that's also on you, right? If there's a nation that says, hey, we want to bring food to that kid, and you say no food to that kid, no food to that kid. Keep in mind, this is the exact same reasoning, right? So suppose you're not even talking about the rest of the population. Suppose they were just bringing baby formula to babies from another nation, and you said, no, that's not going in until everyone surrenders, and if they choose to starve, then that's on them. Well, it kind of be on you too, right? Because you're the one saying no food in there. So it's mutual. You would be agreeing with the parent. You and the parents together would be deciding that these babies starve to death.
Okay. The response was... conspiracy, LOLK. What kind of boomer says LOLK? What century is this, man? What century?
Isn't that 20 years ago? Isn't that 20 years ago from South Park or something?
Are you in the wrong? I guess it makes sense that you now go for the conspiracy theory. Yeah. That you are also somebody who says, okay. Are you serious, man?
Yeah.
Anyway, David, we should probably take the poll down. We should probably go back to the topic.
Oh, yeah.
That's how about
So I will take a screenshot of that for future reference. But yeah, knows too much. All I'm pointing out is if that's how far you're willing to go, starve the entire population, because knowing what that would look like and being willing to starve everyone and so on. If you're willing to go that far, it's not if there are no limits willing to do what you to what you would want to do or to what you would think is acceptable, like that's why I asked, okay, would nuking them be acceptable? Because you could get the exact same result just quickly, and it's more painless than starving to death. So is that okay? Or rounding them up and putting them in starvation camps? Well, if you're basically advocating turning the entire thing into a starvation camp, right? So why not like individual like camps and then toss them into ovens or something? That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to find out where you would draw the line and say why. Right here is where that would be unacceptable. I'm trying to figure out what would be unacceptable because I haven't seen what it would be. Okay, got it?
What cares?
All right, I'm trying to take super chats, man. You don't blame me, blame him. He keeps saying stuff. Female children are molested very easily in Muslim families because of male children too. Because of honor shame culture, these girls don't get justice. Neither do the boys.
Okay.
It's extremely common. It's taken as normal in many parts of the Muslim world. And it's not even considered gay or anything like that. If you're molesting a boy, until they have a beard, it's not considered gay. A Palestinian kid scrapes a knee and people scream about Israel being evil. Just imagine the response if Israel did something, that harsh. A female doctor in Pakistan on TV admitted that in 82% of cases where minor girls are molested, the perpetrators are male relatives. Pakistan is like really bad. That's a serious problem. That's a serious problem in Pakistan is it's so common to molest children over there. And what do? What does the British government do? Let's take an entire culture, which is like famously prolific in molesting children. Let's take all these guys, put them in the UK and put them around a bunch of 12-year-old British girls.
Okay.
What could possibly go wrong? D. Wood, what if Gaza was filled with Mike Winger? Well, that would be a different situation.
Fair enough.
If D. Wood hates the Winger, why does he follow him? It's pretty straightforward. I repeatedly said, I'm commanded to love my enemy, and therefore I love Mike Winger. I follow him because you have to know your enemy. So he can be my enemy, and I can follow him and can love my enemy. Relevant. Operations deny flight and deliberate force were good. If there's hell, Milosevic is in it. Rest in peace, Masha Amini. And hey, this is from stuff back in the day, man.
That's from Milosevic.
We will have this problem forever, and unfortunately, because we are pro-life and they are pro-death.
True.
That's... Me and AP are speaking from experience here. We've always noticed who the pro-life, and guys, we're not talking about pro-life and the like pro-choice pro-life. We're talking about the people who are on the side of life and the people who are a death cult. We are aware of that. We notice that. Matthew 5:43, but I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. That's exactly what we're saying I do with Mike Winger. Hey guys, love your content. I've been gifted a New World Translation of by the Jehovah's Witnesses. Is it good for me to start studying, or does it teach different things from the ESV or King James? They do have some bad translations of stuff to justify their theology. But if you want to study it so that you can interact with Jehovah's Witnesses, you could certainly want to do that. And one of the things to do would be go to the passages that are relevant for the discussion and see what the New World Translation says and compare that with ESV, King James, and so on.
Doesn't it also have additions and stuff like that? I don't know much about it.
What?
Nothing.
D. Wood, act, it was me, not Rebecca, that said you don't get it by getting it. I mean that the current pattern in Israel can't win and Hamas can't lose, i.e. endless war. Oh, keep in mind, me and AP we are not fans of endless war. We want something to be done to stop the endless war. Steps need to be taken. Drastic steps need to be taken. We're saying you can do all that without crossing some ultimate lines here. And you can do it without losing your place in the world and losing the support of nations like the United States. So do it in the smart. Again, we think you're doing it. I don't think this problem lasts forever. I think this problem gets dealt with. It's going to take some serious steps, but I think those serious steps are going to be made, and I think It will eventually require something like, all right, we're taking this entire population, we're giving them a place over here. We're just getting them far away from Jews as possible. Most IDF soldiers aren't on board with starving babies. Yeah, most people aren't. All right, let's watch this last video clip. We still got more super chats if you're don't think that I'm ignoring them.
Oh,
Let's check out this last video. What?
There's I'm just looking at some verses that are missing in the New World Translation, and
like what
verses that are added. There are things like alterations, like in John 1:1, I think it says, and the word was a god or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's not a missing verse, but yeah, they have the word was a god.
They also have missing verses such as "For the Son of Man came to save the lost." I don't know. I need to look at this list a little bit further. This is interesting stuff.
All right, let's check this out. I want to find out who this Charlie guy is. I don't know who he is. And Great Britain
The Prime
news.
Minister will be urged to launch a new national inquiry into grooming gangs in a report due next week, directly linking the issue to men of Pakistani origin.
Who's this lady? Anyone know? Like, is she famous?
Even saying that probably makes me racist. In any case, the findings from Baroness cases months
that was funny. Hang on, I'm going back.
The Prime Minister will be urged to launch a new national inquiry into grooming gangs in a report due next week, directly linking the issue to men of Pakistani origin, which even saying that probably makes me racist.
That should be pointed out. Speaking from an American perspective, everyone, every single time you mention the grooming gangs and you mention that they're Pakistanis or Muslims, you should always point out, but apparently that makes me racist, right? You should always mock the idea that you're racist for pointing out like evil and rape and stuff like that.
Yes, the findings from Baroness cases, a months-long audit, will warn that white British girls were ignored due to fears of racism. Despite resistance from Sir Keir Starmer, who says another inquiry would delay justice, a report suggests the findings will...
Did she just go, yeah?
She just said that.
She did the Tommy thing. She went, yeah. And so as we're examining this,
for a fresh investigation into the perpetrator's race and claims of a cover-up. Well, we have the expert on this story, a man that has done brilliant work on it, covered it from day one, and that is GB News national reporter Charlie Peters. Charlie, once again, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone for the work you've done on this.
Wait, how is this guy the crack reporter? He looks like he's 20, man. This guy looks like he's 20.
Now,
man.
what does this mean?
Well, a few years ago, GB News published a report that said over 50 different towns and cities...
How old does this guy look to you, AP? I want to look him up. Huh? What's his name? Charlie what? Was it Charlie Peters?
Charlie Hebdo.
Charlie Hebdo. No, it's not Charlie Peters. Oh, wait, it is. GB News. Come on, tell me how old you are, man. Looks like he's 12. I don't know.
Hey, this is so funny. I'm looking at the New World Translation on the Jehovah's Witnesses
That's what
website.
You're doing?
Yeah. Acts 8:37. When you go to verse Acts 8:37, there are just two hyphens. The verse is not given. And the verse is the one that says, what does it say? If you testify that Jesus is the Son of God, or something like that. It's very funny.
Hey, hang on. I wanted to get down to 3 super chats because I want to get to Daniel's. Liberals to me, you're an ex-Muslim woman, but you're still Palestinian. Why don't you support your people? Me, the same people who disowned me at 17 for converting to Christianity and want me dead. That is a valid point. Very valid point. IDF veteran here. You unalive the children on purpose is the type of order you're taught never to follow. Good. Don't want to follow that. Hey, look at this one. This is one I wanted to get to. Daniel says, the path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Ezekiel 25:17. That that was that goes on, but that became the quotation of Jules in Pulp Fiction. Remember that? You ever see Pulp Fiction?
Oh,
When he was quoting that?
oh yes.
All right. Thank you guys. Yep. And all right, back to you. See this guy, AP? This guy's everyone's saying this guy is like the one who made the government investigate this stuff. And it's like, I don't know.
These had been affected by this scourge in recent decades. Now, after we put that out, the then government, which was under the command of Rishi Sunak, launched a grooming gangs task force. It's made well over 1,000 arrests since April 2023. But in this new administration under a Labour government, they have resisted calls since January for a national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. They've done so because they say that localised inquiries are more effective. They point to the Telford model because Telford had a review published in 2022, which found over 1,000 victims over a few decades. They've also said that we've already had an inquiry, the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, which was published in 20.
Oh, bull. Bull. I asked Grok. I asked Google. Google didn't answer me. I asked Grok. Grok says he's 42 years old. Are you kidding me? AP. This guy look 42 to you?
42 years old.
This guy, look at him.
2017. However,
what's his name?
that review.
Charlie Peters.
That's ridiculous.
There's no way.
That's
that has to be a mistake. That has to be a mistake. If you had said 30, I would have said no way.
Ain't no way.
Ain't no way.
Did not look sufficiently, some say, into the grooming gang scandal. Looked at just 6 areas, not the vast number it should have, with the 50 areas that we have highlighted,
exactly,
for
yes.
example. I should say that was actually published in 22, not 2017, sorry. However, it does look now, based on reports we're seeing in newspapers, that Baroness Casey's report is going to call for a national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. We don't know what the government reaction to that will be. They could fudge it. They could say, no, we don't need this. We're standing by what we've argued for the last 6 months. We need more localised inquiries, as they've argued for. I can say now that survivors have been contacted by the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, this morning. Some victims of grooming gangs have got in touch with me today to say that minister from the Home Office has engaged with them to say that they will be announcing new actions next week.
Right, okay.
So it's the first we're hearing about what's coming up. New actions will be...
New actions. That's good to know. Because their old actions sucked, I have to say.
Coming next week, guided, I'm told, as Jess Phillips has told one person I'm in correspondence with, by testimony they've given to ministers. I know that many survivors have been meeting with the Home Office team, particularly Jess Phillips, in the last 6 months. Some of those survivors have been actually introduced to the Home Office by GB News. We've facilitated those introductions so that more testimony can be heard by Home Office ministers. But I am hearing now from some of those survivors that Jess Phillips has been in touch to say there will be new actions. We don't know.
Okay, so Jess Phillips has been in touch with actual victims of things and so on to inform them about new things that will happen. That is good. Anyway, I'm kind of 50-50 on whether this is all for show or whether they're actually going to do something. I mean, keep in mind, even if it's for show, they will do something. They will do something. But is what they're doing for show? Or is someone serious about getting to the bottom of this and exposing everything that happened and everyone who was involved and stuff like that? I would love to see that. In fact, I'll go and say it. Everyone who's doing this right now, British government, you can actually make me trust you more if you actually do a real serious job of this. I will say, you know what? The British government has sucked for centuries, but they've changed and they're doing something positive.
What those new actions will be.
What?
Very important information. He's not in his 40s. That was
good. Thank you.
That's a wrong reference. Because he was married to somebody else's age. Nobody knows how old he is. It's not made public. So until he publicly explains how old he is, we will refer to him as a 12-year-old child.
I agree. Watch another minute of this.
Is
we
the
don't know
important
what it
thing
will
here.
be. And it will really rely on what Baroness Casey says, because they announced this rapid audit in January, in the middle of that month, after 2 weeks of really relentless pressure with Conservatives, the Reform Party, Elon Musk, many other influential public figures also calling for a national inquiry into this grooming gang scandal. Because we've had so many public inquiries over the last decade or so. Infected blood.
Yep.
There's been an inquiry launched into Lucy Letby. We're going to have an inquiry into the Nottingham tragedy from a few years ago. But this issue, for one reason or another...
I don't know why we're focusing on this, but someone said he's close to 30 based on his college education listed on LinkedIn. So they basically did an estimate. Here's when he went to college and so on, and therefore he'd be close to 30. It is weird that you can't find someone's age, though.
It's always escaped that level of statutory investigation.
I think we all know what the reason is, don't we, Charlie?
Precisely.
I mean, we really do.
But perhaps there could be more reasons that we don't know that would be uncovered by a statutory investigation. Perhaps it would reveal, beyond what we're hearing from this report today, that there are fears of racism preventing an investigation. I've always said, and I really do think this goes a bit further than that, actually.
Yeah, I do too.
This isn't just about political correctness and people fearing them being seen as racist. I think there is corruption and mistakes there, but also collusion.
Yeah.
What I'm really interested in being discovered and being revealed and being investigated by public bodies is collusion between public authorities, those in positions of authority, and abusers. And I also want to see an investigation into organised crime groups and grooming gangs. Because last month, as we were waiting for...
I wasn't even thinking about that.
Baroness Casey's what was meant to be a rapid audit, which has turned into a 6-month audit.
6 months.
As we were waiting for that to come back, we published our own sort of national audits. We found hundreds of convictions since the early noughties, but we also found 0 deportations since 2011, and we...
Did you hear this? 0 deportations because of this? Since 2011? You're muted, man.
Deportations are racist. Deportations are oppression. Deportations are literally Holocaust. This is the Western mindset. What do you expect?
Yeah, and they always do the same thing. Well, if we deport him, they might have a problem with him being a rapist over there, and they might beat him up, so we need to keep him here and let him keep raping. This is insane.
Who cares? Deport them. I don't care.
But think about it. And then
I do not care.
There was that recent case where you had a guy who did all sorts of messed up stuff, and then he had no contact with his kid, but they still said that his defense was, but who's gonna teach my kid the Quran if you send me back home? And they're like, oh, you need someone. Yes, you need to be here to teach your kid the Quran. It's like this guy's like a pedophile, man. This is insane, man. Anyway, so Charlie there, he did bring up some interesting points there. He's like me. He wants to say, okay, we all understand there were people who were terrified of being called racist, and they would rather let girls be drugged and raped and gang raped and so on. They would rather do all of that. Than be called a name, than be called a racist. We understand that. He's talking about, okay, who's involved, who's covering things up, are there connections to organized crime, traffickers, and things like that. He wants all that stuff to come out. I agree. That is good stuff. Good stuff. So, guys, I don't think we actually can know anything more until this actually unfolds. I don't think we can know any more about this investigation until it happens, and then we're going to see how serious they are about it. So we just have to wait and see at this point. Jay Pendragon said, what the heck is this poll? Yeah, the poll was just, okay, if you believe this is acceptable. I was trying to start at the extreme, like, okay, is this acceptable? And see what percentage. And then I was going to kind of dial things back. Okay, if not this, then what about this? Then what about this? Then what about this? And see, I was basically wondering like how many people in the chat supported various things. But I kind of got the gist on that first question. Meant to say Happy Father's Day, since he is a father to no one but Al-Quran. How can you explain mother of the book? That's true. It's too late now, but what could we do about Allah on Father's Day? He's a father to no one. Happy Father's Day to all fathers, not you, Allah. I don't know. When fighting a war, you have to be careful not to become the very thing you're fighting against. It's also very easy to armchair general a war. That's true. And keep in mind, I understand the perspective of people who are like there, especially if they have friends or relatives who are hostages or who know hostages or who are victims on, on October 7th and so on. They can have a different perspective from the rest of us. And I completely get saying, you know what? Do not give these guys an inch, and definitely don't send any food across there. How dare you? I understand it. I understand the perspective. This shouldn't even be a debate. Gazans are not numbers on a board. They are people, and we should be compassionate. We shouldn't condemn all Gazans because the government there is evil. Well, to be fair, you have large percentages of the population who support a lot of sick, evil stuff. And I have to say, I'm kind of biased because I've been a sick, evil person who society would have been entirely justified wiping me out, given the things that I was doing and planning on doing. And I got a second chance. And so I've always been very grateful that I was not wiped out. Mossab Yusuf changed because Israel was kind to him. That's true. And sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes you help people like, what's that guy? They helped him with a tumor and then he just still kept terrorizing them.
Yahya Sinwar.
Yeah, absolute scum. So sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you can be kind to someone and he's Yahya Sinwar. Other times you can be kind to someone and it's Mossab Yusuf and he becomes your biggest defender. My Magic 8 Ball says that Iran is cooked. Yeah, I hope Israel takes out all their ability to fire missiles real quick. Knows Too Much said, I would have breached the Gaza-Egypt border on day one and have the population move to pan-Arabic Islamic countries and those who care so much for them. Now, if you argue that, I might be on board. David, I meant as in Einaf Wilf's point, withholding aid could have shortened the war and reduced casualties. And as I pointed out, that's why I brought up just nuking the entire place or just wiping out. That would have shortened the war. The point is that the main criterion, shortening a war? You can always do things to shorten a war by being as brutal as possible. It's like there are other costs associated with it. So that was my point. Andrew Wilson calling Israel the helper of the Antichrist is the same claim as Muslims saying Israel is the little Satan. I saw someone earlier say Andrew watched too many of the Left Behind movies. Something like that. That's kind of funny. Winger makes D Wood want to be a better man. Actually, when Winger's around, everyone is a better man by comparison. Ida says, that's what I do. I'm praying for our enemies that they will stop wanting to try to unalive us, and then we can all have a good life. What a dream, huh? Yeah.
That'll be the beast. That'll be super beast.
And really, I think Islam is being exposed and its sick ideas and its fake prophet and so on. I think Islam is being exposed. The apostasy rate is increasing. I think if Islam continues to crumble from within, I'd like to see the impact. That will be one of the last places it kind of filters down to. But once it filters down even there, I'd like to see how that affects things. I'd also like to see how the Iranian regime crumbling, because guys, there is light. There is light ahead, possibly. If the Iranian regime crumbles, the people take over, we get a free and democratic Iran, and lots of Iranians want to be on good terms with Israel. There are lots of Sunni Arab Gulf nations that want to be on good terms with Israel. If all these nations end up on good terms with Israel and Gaza realizes, wait a minute, people just aren't on board with wipe out the Jews anymore. Hopefully they change, but still may need to deport the population. Hello, David. What's your beef with Mike Winger? It seems more than a joke, too. It seems like more than a joke. Yeah, where do I begin? Dude's a total nerd and the worst person in the universe. I don't know how to explain it. It's like, David, what's your problem with What's your problem with the neo-Nazi down the street? Well, that he's a neo-Nazi. What's your problem with Hitler? He's Hitler. What's your problem with Mike Winger? He's Mike Winger, dude. Come on. As a psychopath, when you think about the mercies, awesomeness, etc. of God, did that move you to tears? Thanks. No. I understand that I was shown mercy, and that's good, but not a lot of tears come out of these eyes. Any bets on how long before this Charlie chap is caught in a gay scandal or unalives himself or get Tommy Robinson? So that's interesting. So are they going to target that dude? I kind of think it's too late for them to put the lid back on this bottle. And one thing we've noticed and we've brought up is that Tommy's in a different category because he's working class. I don't know what this Charlie guy's education level is and so on, but he doesn't sound like the working class guys who aren't allowed to speak. In other words, any people's problem with Tommy is amplified in Great Britain because the politicians and the intelligentsia and so on, they think working class people need to keep their mouths shut and go work, and they're not qualified to speak on these issues. Even if the working class guy who's speaking is saying, hey, maybe we need to do something about all these little girls getting gang raped and pimped and drugged and so on. So I don't think that would happen to Charlie. In fact, that's what makes it more disturbing. We've pointed out many times in the past, Douglas Murray is basically saying the exact same thing Tommy Robinson is saying. Douglas Murray can go on every platform. Douglas Murray can go on every news program. Douglas Murray can write articles for the media and so on. That's all fine. Why? He has the right accent. Tommy, he's working class. He speaks different, and he has to be destroyed. And that is pretty sick, evil stuff. I am glad, based on that alone, that we dumped your stinking tea into our stinking harbor, people of Great Britain. You got what you deserve. What I'm really hoping is that Great Britain has turned the corner and they decide to stop going after Tommy Robinson. Like, it's become so obvious why they're going after Tommy Robinson. I hope they realize this isn't stopping him. And if we continue going after him, we're just making obvious what our real agenda is. So hopefully that's all passed. All right, AP, we're done. Anything else?
Powerful. No.
Any updates on Iran? Anything else happening? No. All right.
There's some major impact in Israel. There are some places destroyed and burning, but get your information. Yeah, that's all.
All right, everyone. I will be live. Is that tomorrow? It may be tomorrow with Anthony Rogers. I think it's tomorrow. Anthony said tomorrow was the day that would work, and then he's going traveling or something like this. But we wanted to look into the issue of Tawheed. That when God Logic was having a discussion with Ali Dawa kept saying, "Oh, go look at the shape here. The shape, they don't match up. You see the shape and they can't go together. This is why everyone is turning to Tawheed." And then God Logic would actually question him about Tawheed. And Ali Dawa would change the subject and would not answer. And so we want to try and take a closer look and figure out why our Muslim friends like Ali Dawa want to say, see, the Trinity's confusing. This is why you need to believe in Tawheed. But when you ask them about Tawheed, they will not answer. Why? Tawheed is one huge mess. Anyway, my good friend Anthony Rogers says he can explain why Ali Dawa does not want to talk about Tawheed. These will be good times. All right, everyone. Everyone keep your eyes on what's happening with Israel and Iran. There is the possibility we could see a free Iran very, very soon. Very, very soon. One, I think we're going to see a free Iran in the near future, but it would be cool if it was like next week. You know what I mean? Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yes.
It'd be awesome to witness.
Yes.
All right, guys. Talk to y'all tomorrow. Be based.